and the latest in television technology. We're building tomorrow's memories today, right here on NBC.
Today on NBC, you'll see American League Rookie of the Year candidate Wally Joyner as the Western Division leading California Angels travel to Memorial Stadium in Baltimore to take on perennial All-Star Cal Ripken Jr. and the Baltimore Orioles. Or some of you will see the multi-talented Eric Davis and the Cincinnati Reds visit the friendly confines in Chicago, Wrigley Field, to battle Ryan Sandberg and the Chicago Cubs. But up first, NBC Sports presents Major League Baseball, an inside look. Brought to you by the new Valvoline 4Guard, the motor oil for today's harder-working four-cylinder engines. And by Sure, because Sure antiperspirant keeps you dry. You're looking at Memorial Stadium on 33rd Street in Baltimore as we get set to watch two teams in very different situations. Hello, everyone. I'm Bill McAtee. The Baltimore Orioles mired 9 games behind Boston in the American League East against the California Angels, who are struggling against the pesky Texas Rangers. And of the latter, Gene Mock of the Angels said, well, I like our chances against a team that has to score 9 runs a game to win. And ironically, that was what the Angels would need here last night. We're going to take a look at the highlights from last night as the divisional leaders went 2-2, and we'll begin in the National League West with the leaders, the Houston Astros. Nolan Ryan was trying for his 250th career win, but the story was another pitcher, John Tudor, who won his 13th of the year and was also effective at the plate. Here, Tudor with his second RBI single of the night off Nolan Ryan as St. Louis built a 6-2 lead until the ninth, when Todd Worrell, on in relief, faced pinch hitter Denny Walling and gave up this 3-run home run. Walling his 11th home run of the year, but the Cardinals hung on to that 1-run lead, winning 6-5. Houston didn't lose any ground to San Francisco, though, because at Candlestick, Dwight Gooden won his 13th, the Mets their 5th straight, and watched the play at the plate after the single by Chili Davis. Dan Gladden is thrown out by Kevin Mitchell, tagged by Ed Hearn, who had blocked the plate. In the American League, the Red Sox continue to play well against Cleveland, who they've beaten in all 8 meetings this year. Bill Buckner with his 2-run single in the 7th. That put the Red Sox up 4-3. Boston added to that and went on to win 6-3. And here in Baltimore, with California leading 7-3, the Orioles had a 5-run 8th inning, including this key bad hop double by Freddie Lynn that gets by Doug DeCinces at third. John Shelby scores. It all came with 2 outs, and the Orioles come back against California, winning 8-7. And a quick look at the standings in the American League West. The Angels losing last night, the Texas Rangers winning. California's lead now down to 4 games, and we're joined by Bob Boone, a veteran who has seen a couple of races in his time. Are you surprised that the Rangers, with all of their youth, have hung as tough as they have?
I would say our team is probably surprised that Texas has played so tough. More than surprised, though, would be the word impressed. We've been impressed by them. They've really hung in there, and they're scoring a ton of runs, and you keep looking up and waiting for them to fold, and they don't fold. So I think they're for real, and we expect them to be for real. And when we think this thing's going right down the wire, that's what, when we came into spring training, we figured the race would go down the wire. We didn't know who the people would be. We were hoping we were going to be one of the teams to be in the race, and I think that's the way it's turning out.
We were talking a little bit earlier, and you said there's no such thing as a lock when you're going for the division, and yet you look at the Mets, and they seem to be as close to a lock as you can get.
About 10 years ago, I experienced something like that in Philadelphia, and the Pittsburgh Pirates just about caught us. They got hot as they could get, and we played decent baseball, and it got really nerve-wracking because that was going to be the biggest blown pennant in the history of pennants. And I think Yogi used the words the best to describe all of baseball for all time, and that is, it's never over till it's over.
You write that down. You have seen a lot of divisional races, as I said. Is there one thing that you can pinpoint on this club that will be an indicator that things are going well or things are not going well down the stretch?
Well, I don't really believe there is. I think, I'm not a big believer in momentum, and I think, a well-pitched ball game can stop that momentum real easily or create it for your team. And it just, you just have to keep grinding it out day after day. And you don't worry about where the race is until, it's October 3rd. And that's when we're going to determine how we're doing.
Bob Boone, thank you. You thought much about next year, by the way? Free agent?
Well, I think you think about it all the time, but right now there's really nothing to do but worry about getting through the next game.
The best of luck down the stretch.
Thank you.
Bob Boone, thank you very much, and we'll return to Memorial Stadium in Baltimore right after these messages. Stay with us.
Batting eighth, the center fielder.
Just because you've washed your car doesn't...
That you don't win in the big leagues without good pitching. But what about good defense? Is a player who can take away a hit as valuable to a team as the player who gets them? Baseball doesn't really need yet another statistical category, but here's a thought. Takeaways like these to give great defensive players proper credit. All of these plays made within the last week. And what about the tools of the fielder's trade? The baseball glove. Well, that is an item that has undergone almost as many changes as the game of baseball itself. Baseball's defensive craftsmen aren't at a loss for words when they talk about the tools of their trade.
I need a good pocket. I have to have a hinge area here so I can snap the ball both ways, both on the forehand and the backhanding, using an old tennis term.
You know, once you've used the glove for 1 or 2 years, it starts to get a little bit flimsy. And I like my glove stiff because, especially playing on AstroTurf on a base hit, the ball, if it's too flimsy, the glove will bend back and you won't be able to hold on to the ball. So I like it kind of stiff.
In baseball's infancy, fielders caught with 2 hands, both of them bare. Then along came something that looked like cycling gloves. When leather arrived, players still used 2 hands. In 1919, St. Louis pitcher Bill Doak was the first player to use a glove with a pocket. Ozzie Smith is considered the virtuoso of Major League shortstops. He's won 6 Gold Glove awards. But there are men behind the gloves, the glove designers. About them, Red Smith wrote that Harry Latina and his son Raleigh had more to do with lowering batting averages than Sandy Koufax, Christy Matheson, and Walter Johnson combined.
I keep one finger out, and that gives me better feel because I'm always trying to catch the ball right in my pocket here, and that way I always know where the ball is at all times.
You very seldom ever really use the web too much, do you? Unless it's a real wide ball.
It's a wide ball that I have to go to my left or to my right to get, and then sometimes you'll see me jump up and go because where is it? I don't feel it.
Fielders' gloves evolved from deep pockets with open sides and little control. Gloves today have hinged heels with all the control at the player's fingertips, an advance that gives players greater range. Catcher's gloves originally had no brakes, and they had to use 2 hands to trap the ball in the pads, a dangerous technique.
You could always tell a catcher by his broken fingers.
It probably wasn't great for foul tips.
No, it was terrible. But today, everything has gone to brakes, and catchers use the catcher's mitt like a first base mitt.
That brings up another glove that underwent drastic change, the first baseman's mitt.
Fans get a kick out of the way. Joe Netz throws in a specially constructed glove with its fingertip grasp that gains inches on the runner.
So while the players with the gloves are the virtuosos on the field, they've got the master craftsmen helping them out at the drawing board. We're joined now by another virtuoso. Joe Garagiola has come down from upstairs to join us. Now, you remember the days when players had to buy their own glove. I mean, none of this business about manufacturers giving them gloves.
That's right, and players would buy their gloves, and they would take care of their gloves in their own way. But they were much smaller, too, Bill. Now, this one, you could sleep 6 in this one, as big as that is. A guy like Terry Moore, he could use it in center field and use it to keep his hands warm in the winter. Now, there are a couple guys in the league now. Robbie Thompson, Joe Morgan use a small glove. But the catcher's mitt, I think, has made the most drastic change, and I'm not even talking about the knuckleball glove. This is Bob Boone's glove, for example. If you look at it, there's a split right here, and it kind of closes like that, where they catch the ball like this, one-handed all the time. So literally, where they're catching the ball is in here. When I played, we had no webbing. It was like a little pocket, and you caught everything to where it landed right there, and you had a bone bruise.
I was going to say, do you still have, let me see your hand, do you still have any damage in that?
Yes.
Yeah, I can feel it.
In the wintertime, this finger gets very cold, but the catchers today, they have their finger out here, and also when they take a tag play at the plate, they catch the ball here, and they tag them this way, like they're doing Swan Lake. Whereas in the old days, you caught the ball, had your hand in here, and just tagged them this way, or even split your hand so that if they knocked the glove off, you still had the ball.
Now, what are some of the things you thought about in choosing your glove?
Feel, how it felt. But we were taught that we had to feel the ball hit your hand And infielders were that way. Eddie Miller was that way. He used to cut out the middle of his glove so he could feel the ball. Now guys are catching it here, and sometimes they have to find the ball.
I was going to say, you lose some control, don't you?
Oh, definitely. We never had to find the ball. We got the message. Usually it was pain because you caught it right in there, yeah. This is a special kind of glove because the heel is cut down. Catch the low pitch. It comes in here.
How do you think they're going to change now? Do you think there's more evolution to come?
I would think that they're going to eventually maybe try to get one with the microphone. Where they'll put it in there, and instead of calling pitches, you'll tell the pitcher, fastball, please, you know, room service.
You like that stuff?
No, I don't like it.
I don't think so.
I'd like to see guys feel the ball when they catch it.
Hey, thanks for coming down with us.
Hey, my pleasure.
Go back upstairs and get to work. Okay, Joe Garagiola, and we'll be back to Memorial Stadium right after these messages. You know, this past week was one in which Major League pitchers experienced the best and the worst of their craft. One near-perfect game, one near no-hitter, and one game that was far from perfect. After 100 pitches, 8 innings, and a scoreless game, Don Carmen of the Phillies was perfect against the Giants. But then in the ninth, on pitch 101, Bob Brenly drilled this shot just out of Milt Thompson's reach for a double, as Don Carmen lost the bid to become the 16th pitcher in history to throw a perfect game and had to settle for a 1-0 victory. But consider the frustration of Detroit's Walt Terrell, a no-hitter with 2 out in the ninth, and Wally Joyner takes a slider to right for a double to end the no-hit bid on a night Terrell said he really didn't have his best stuff. Earlier this year, Joyner had broken up a no-hitter in the ninth against Charlie Huff and the Texas Rangers. Also on Wednesday, the pitcher of record in '86 continued to roll as Roger Clemens threw his 9th complete game of the year, winning 9-1 against Minnesota and coming within a game of 20 wins at 19-4. Boston has given Clemens overwhelming offensive support this year, but nothing like the 24 runs they gave Oil Can Boyd Thursday night, including this grand slam by Tony Armas in a 12-run 6th inning where 11 came with 2 out. And the frustration of the Indians fans was evident. Spike Owen hit this home run against the Indians and tied an American League record by scoring 6 runs in a single game. In the process, Spike losing the American League lead in the dubious category of home runs per at-bat. And among the oddities this week, watch as Lynn Dykstra of the Mets makes the catch but loses the out and his glove after Tim Tupple steps on his hand. Dykstra calmly accepts the umpire's decision of no catch. And for those of you staying with us here in Baltimore, one interesting aspect of this game, the crowd's reaction to Eddie Murray. Last night, Murray failed to run out a ground ball. The ball was booted, and Murray was out by 40 feet. He is injured, but the crowd here in Baltimore has not taken that into consideration. And their reaction will be interesting to watch this afternoon as we get set for baseball. Some of you will stay with us here, the Angels and the Orioles. The rest of you will see the Reds and the Cubs. Baseball is coming up.
The St. Louis Browns finished in the second division 40 times, won their only pennant in 1944, lost the World Series in 6 games to their hometown rivals, the Cardinals. In 1951, things were so desperate in the city of St. Louis that a 3-foot midget named Eddie Goodell made his big league appearance. The ball club eventually moved to Baltimore and opened up Memorial Stadium in 1954. You knew it wasn't the same old Browns. They beat the Chicago White Sox 3-1. It was the harbinger of good things to come for the franchise known as the Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles have not picked up where the Browns left off. They have been most successful. Today, they stand in the way of the California Angels.
The National Broadcasting Company, now in its 6th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. Baseball's milestones. Baseball's majesty. And baseball's magical moments. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today from Memorial Stadium, it's the California Angels versus the Baltimore Orioles. The Game of the Week is brought to you by Miller Lite. For great taste, there is only one light beer. By Ford and your local Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Radio Shack, a division of Tandy Corporation. And by Owens Corning Building Products. We put your house in the pink.
Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Joe Garagiola. Welcome to Baltimore, where the O's got well in a hurry last night, but the Angels sit atop the Heat 4 games in front.
It was interesting reading the paper. They talk about the magic is back with Baltimore because of the rally, but the Angels, Bob Boone had a great story talking about we got the pitching and that's why we're going to win. But I feel, Vin, like they're going to do it with Weaver's theory. Pitching, defense, and a 3-run homer provided by Wally Joyner.
And, of course, the pitching is really the emphatic area for California with people like Kirk McCaskill and Mike Witt and John Candelaria and Don Sutton. Even the fifth man is questionable. They sent Ron Romanic out. And we'll look at young Ray Chadwick today, 0-2, batting for that number 5 slot.
Well, you have to like the Angels' chances because another name you can bring up is Terry Forster. When he comes back, they're going to have guys that have proven themselves, and down the stretch, that's what it's going to take.
And meanwhile, it will take more than a little magic for Earl Weaver to get his ball club in gear. It's 9 games back. They've had kind of a Baltimore shuffle lately. They have to rely on pitching, and the pitching hasn't been there. Case in point was last night with Mike Boddicker. We'll get to the starting lineups. We'll have all the pregame stats and stories all coming up right after this. Here's the way the Angels stack up offensively with Bruce Burleson starting off as the DH. Then it'll be Wally Joyner at first base and Brian Downing in left field. Doug DeCinces comes home to play third base, and George Hendrick will be in right field. Bobby Grich at second, Dick Schofield the shortstop, Gary Pettis in center field, and Bob Boone behind the plate.
Here's the way they line up in the outfield. It'll be Sheets, Lynn, and Dwyer. Lynn, not exactly 100%, but he says he wants to play. He's in the lineup. Rafer, they use him mostly for his bat at third base. Ripken is shortstop. Jackie Gutierrez is second base. Traber, I'm anxious to see him. Really been hitting the ball. Stefano behind the plate, and Flanagan is the pitcher.
In looking at Mike Flanagan, you look at one of the mainstays of the Baltimore staff over the years. Flanagan is 6-8. He has had just 1 win in his last 4 starts, but he's pitched reasonably well. You might remember at the start of the year, he could only win 1 in his first 13 starts. So Flanagan, who was on the DL with tendinitis, finding it difficult to come back, but he's piled up 135 wins in his brilliant career, and the O's hope that he'll get him back on track. Baltimore snapped a 4-game losing streak last night. They are in 5th place, and they are 9 back of the front-running Red Sox. The Angels, meanwhile, are in first place, 4 in front of Texas. The O's and the Angels have put on some pretty good games. The Orioles lead 4-3, and all of them have been decided by 3 runs or less, so we ought to have a good one. Rich Burleson, followed by Wally Joyner, and then Brian Downing. There is certainly one common denominator between the 2 teams. Each team has had trouble with a solid leadoff man. The Angels have had 7 different leadoff men, and Baltimore has used 8. And here's Burleson. And promptly bangs the first pitch of the game into right field for a base hit. Dwyer up with it, so Burleson is aboard, and that will bring up Wally Joyner. Tough way to begin.
It is, and he just continues what he did in batting practice. Watching him during batting practice, he was hitting the ball from center field to the right field line, even though Rayford, as we showed you, was playing in tight to protect against the bunt. And Burleson had no intention of dropping the bunt and beating it out. He was going to drive it, and now Joyner's up there with the man on first. He's got a nice gap between first and second to shoot for.
One of the bright lights of the Angels this year, Wally Joyner with Brian Downing on deck. Ball 1. We're just starting out, so pull up a chair and spend part of Saturday with us. And you can see he has given the Birds a bad time. Joyner twice this year has broken up no-hitters. He broke up a Charlie Huff no-hitter in the 9th inning in Anaheim, and then the other night you might have seen him destroy the no-hitter of Walt Terrell in the 9th inning with a double to right and with 2 out. In there. Tim Welke is the plate umpire, and all 4 umpires in the American League as well as in the National League wearing the black armbands in memory of the late, great Tom Gorman, who umpired for so long in the National League. Two and one. The count to Wally Joyner. Burleson at first. We're just starting out. Ground ball hit slowly to the right side to Gutierrez, and they get a force. That's all they could do with that one. So 1 out. And the batter will be Brian Downing.
The left fielder, number 5, Brian Downing.
Downing hit a home run last night. He had gone a while since last hitting one. 3 weeks, in fact. The Angels right now have 7 players who have hit 10 or more home runs. They could have 8. The one fellow who's close is Bobby Grich, who has hit 8. So they've got some firepower. Ball 1. Last year, Baltimore had 9 men to hit 10 or more. That tied a major league record. 1-0 to Downing. In there. 1-1.
Looked like Downing was taking it all away, Ben, like they're going to make Flanagan pitch a little bit. Burleson did jump on the first pitch, but Flanagan did fall behind Joyner, and he fell behind Downing. Downing taking all away. It is now even at 1-1.
Flanagan's had a tough time. He's been on the disabled list 4 times in the last 6 years. And his most latest trip with tendonitis at the elbow. Flanny, as they call him here. Pretty good fastball, and you can see Downing try to uppercut that shoulder high fastball, and he came up empty. 1-2. Well, you can see Cleveland leading Boston 2-1 in the 4th inning. Wade Boggs homered for the Sox run. Remember, Baltimore begins a day 9 back of the Red Sox. 1-2. Line drive, foul down the line. You know, in looking at that Red Sox-Cleveland game, you could just encapsulate the entire season as far as Baltimore and Boston is concerned in their games with Cleveland. The Red Sox have a perfect 8 wins and no losses against Cleveland this year. But Cleveland has beaten Baltimore 9 out of 13 times. I mean, there's the pennant race right there. 1-2. Tried to time it, lifts a fly ball to Freddie Lynn, and going out is Gutierrez to make it.
That's the pitch that Flanagan's going to have because that one fastball he threw was a good one, but a change of pace like this last pitch will really make that fastball even look quicker.
So with 2 down in the 1st inning, Wally Joyner at first. Mike Flanagan ready to work on a former Bird, Doug DeCinces. DeCinces was Brooks Robinson's successor at third base, and he did an excellent job, but he was traded to the Angels for outfielder Dan Ford 5 years ago. And Baltimore, well, they haven't had a third baseman since. Ball 1. Give you an idea, DeCinces in the dog days, and he is a rejuvenated third baseman this year. Of course, DeCinces has hit at least 18 home runs in all 5 years in Anaheim. I think one of the reasons that the Orioles traded DeCinces, they originally thought they were going to put Cal Ripken at third. Halfway through the '82 season, they moved Ripken to shortstop, and third base has been a struggle ever since. A drive down the left field line for a base hit. Sheets over to get it. On his way to third is Joyner. The throw cut off by Ripken to second, not in time. So DeCinces comes back with a vengeance.
Joyner rounding second base. He had an idea going. Now he sees right here he's going to go. Now he starts to dig right there, and the throw goes to the cutoff man, and DeCinces with some good base running picks up an extra base. So a base hit now would pick up 2 runs.
It'll be a single with DeCinces taking second on the throw. And here is George Hendrick. Hendrick has bounced back. We're talking about DeCinces in August. He's had a different year than last. 0-1. George with fairly good numbers. 13 home runs. He hit only 4 last year. And he has more RBIs. First base open, and then you have Bobby Grich on deck.
DeCinces, Henrik, even Grich for that matter, deep in the batter's box and stride into the ball. As we look at Gene Mauch, you can see that Flanagan's trying to hit that outside corner.
And he hit it that time, and the count 2-1. In the inning, Burleson singled to right, and Joyner forced him. And after Downing flied out, DeCinces single Joyner to third and took second on the throw.
Look how deep he is, right on the back line, deep in the box.
2-1. You know, that always amazed me that umpires would allow a hitter to even touch the back line. I mean, scratch it out. Now, that's okay. That's fine. He hasn't tried to wipe it out. But in the course of a game, guys will go up there and actually try and tear it out of there.
They will tear it out.
Yeah, I don't know how the umpires allow that. 3-1. Ground ball to the hole. Base hit. It means 1. It means 2 as DeCinces will score. And just like that, it is 2-0 California.
That was a big base that DeCinces picked up when the ball went to the cutoff man. Kind of a bad throw by the left fielder Sheets on the base hit by DeCinces. You can see Ripken trying to make the play, at least knock it down. Once it got to the outfield, that was 2 runs.
Kenny Rowe is going out to the mound, the pitching coach of Baltimore, to talk to Flanagan. A most inauspicious beginning for Mike.
Then a moment ago, you talked about Ripken maybe going over to third base. It's kind of interesting. It seems to be a difference of opinion here. The owner, Ed Williams, I read in the paper, says that we ought to move Ripken over to third and Gutierrez to short. And then Weaver says that anybody talks about moving Ripken to third ought to have his tongue cut out.
You know, and this goes for a lot of people. E. Bennett Williams is a marvelous attorney. In fact, I have read one of his books on law. Brilliant man. I don't know how much baseball he knows. And I would defer to Hank Peters and Earl Weaver if I owned this club, wouldn't you?
You would defer, but if you owned a candy store, you have to stock it.
Oh, I know I'm entitled to do it. But what I'm saying is, if I were E. Bennett Williams as a great brain in law, how much baseball do I really know? I know he's allowed to, sure. But I would think it would be kind of smart to say, hey, you know, Weaver and Peters, they're baseball men. They spent their lives in this. I don't want to listen to them tell me about torts. Why should I tell them about who should play short?
Well,
just an outsider's opinion, right?
Yeah, you have a point, but it's hard to stay out of it.
Yeah. A big O up for the O's. Odell Jones. It's 2-0 California in the first inning. Although, let's face it, why does an extremely successful man buy a ball club? Why does a George Steinbrenner who's in shipbuilding? Why does E. Bennett Williams? Part of it is ego. Part of it is the fact that the stature in the community almost commands it, I think. And that's going to command another shot, and Flanagan is on the ropes. Over to get it is Dwyer. Grich digs for second. They'll stop Hendrick at third. The Angels in the last 2 weeks have really been getting a drop on the opposition in the first inning, and they're after Baltimore.
Grich, another fella deep in the box. Now watch him stride into it as Flanagan tries to hit that outside corner, and he just goes right with it. I tell you, if you get it on that corner and maybe a little bit outside, you might get away with it. But when they stride in, as you can see the pain look on Weaver's face, the way you get them usually if they're going striding in and you bust that bat off in their hands, but that's playing with fire. It's tough. It's a tough stance to defense against.
Well, Dick Schofield coming up with runners at second and third. Now back 0-1.
Said to Gene Mauch, what's been the big difference in Schofield? He said, really, it's just the normal amount of improvement by a talented young player. The mystique is gone. He feels like he belongs, and he's just got a lot of talent, and he's playing the way he can.
From here on in, the sky's the limit. By the way, on that note they just flashed on the monitor, we neglected to put one word in there. That is that Flanagan has not had a complete game win since 1984. fact, in his last victory, he had a one-hit shutout with 1 out in the 9th inning. Fouled away. They had to come and get him. 0-2 the count to Schofield. The Angels on a tear. They're leading 2-0 and trying to break it wide open here.
Such a quiet kid. He's very polite, very nice. But it's almost like he's got lockjaw.
Yeah.
Hello to him is a paragraph, man. When you says hello, you got the whole load.
0-2 the count to Dick Schofield. Got him. So Flanagan finally muscles his way out with a fastball up and away. The Angels get 2 and lead 2-0 at the end of half an inning. Well, the Orioles trailed by 4 runs in the 8th inning last night and turned it around. They trailed by 2 in the 1st inning, and here's the way they stack up offensively. Jackie Gutierrez at second base, followed by Freddie Lynn in center field and Cal Ripken at short. Eddie Murray is the DH with Jim Traber playing first, Jim Dwyer in right field, Larry Sheets in left. Then you have Rayford at third and Stepero behind the plate.
Defensively, Downing, Pettis, and this is a good ballpark for him because you know how well he can roam. Hendrick is in right field. The Sensei Schofield, a real magician around shortstop. You got to like that young fella. Gritch at second base. Joyner at first base. Boone behind the plate. Oldest catcher in the major leagues. Leads the American League in games played and described by the pitching staff as the most informed catcher they've ever pitched to. He looks at videotapes, watches batting practice as we look at Chadwick.
Ray with a record of 0-2. Strike. Tell you a little bit about him. He's out of Durham, North Carolina. Went to Winston-Salem State University. Pitched this winter for Tijuana in the Mexican League. Last start, he couldn't get out of the 1st inning. He is a kid trying to become the number 5 starter, trying to replace Ron Romanic, who was sent out to the Edmonton Trappers, and he was called up on the 22nd of July. Strike. 1-2.
He doesn't have any trick pitches, and in talking to Bob Boone, he says he's got a live arm. He's got the stuff. I just hope he can put that fastball where we want it.
Line to right field. Hendrick coming in and almost fell down. His feet skidded on him, and it'll be a base hit. He's replacing a divot like a good golfer.
Looked like he was going to try to make the play, and then all of a sudden there goes his balance, and he just waits for it and picks it off.
They had some severe rain here, severe enough to rain out 3 games Wednesday and then a doubleheader Thursday. So the outfield, although it looks fine, is a little treacherous. Freddie Lynn has a very sore right shoulder. Last night he had a key hit as a pinch hitter, but he doesn't like to pull because the shoulder hurts him so much.
They're playing him straight away, and he hit that ball last night to the opposite field, so it looks like they're going to stack it that way.
Ball 2, 2-0.
But never trust a ball player.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, he said the way DeCinces plays him so far off the line, he thought about bunting last night. Fouled away. And then Fred was quick to point out he had bunted twice in a season way back in 1974. Well, I'm sure DeCinces read that quote as well as everybody else, but he's still playing him pretty far off the line. And the count 2-1 to Freddie Lynn. I think there's an albatross around Lynn's neck, and it is the story that in his year and a half with Baltimore, Freddie Lynn has missed more games than Eddie Murray and Cal Ripken combined in their careers. Strike. So even though he's hurting now, I think he feels I've got to play.
Well, when you talk to the baseball people, they say that he maintains such a standard for himself that he thinks he has to play to, that when he's not feeling up to it and he feels he can't play to that standard, he just stays out of the lineup.
2-2 the count. Yeah, but if you're a teammate and I say to you, you know, I maintain high standards and I don't think I can meet them today because I have this pain, what would you think of me?
I would tell you no on certain terms, because I'd say, hey, pal, 70% of you is better than 100% of the other guy. So it depends on how good you are.
And how about your standards, which are not nearly as high as mine?
That's right.
I mean...
absolutely. You know. Sure, Vin.
Right. 3-2 the count. Gutierrez goes. Strike 3 at the plate. Booney's throw got him.
What a play. Booney has really been phenomenal with his percentage as far as throwing people out. 31 out of 60 now, and he just got rid of that ball in real good shape and had something on it. Now he gets the strike out of breaking ball. Did you see how quick he went into it? And I think the important thing is that he had both hands on that ball. Watching both hands, no one hand catching there, and there you see it. I tell you, forget the birth certificate, he is still a good catcher.
Well, that puts the blocks when he come back for the inning as Cal Ripken steps in, followed by Eddie Murray. It is 2-0 in favor of the Angels in the first inning. Schofield making a good tag on the sliding Gutierrez.
Good ball to handle, Vin, when it's right about knee high. Just catch it and drop your hand.
1 ball and 1 strike to count. 2-0 Angels. We're just warming up. Hold everything. His Honor Earl Weaver is now out there to talk to Vic Voltaggio, the third base umpire, and evidently has spotted something that could be a distraction, and it's in the area of the bullpen or maybe even further out toward center field. There's a gentleman who was that gentleman with that white sports shirt. And, of course, the hitter evidently complaining they had lost the ball in the shirt.
One guy?
The omnipresent Buddy Joseph. And Earl Weaver picked him off. Fouled away. 1-2. Buddy, an NBC cameraman, and he was caught with his hand in the cookie jar.
We should have given him a build-up. He could have had his own show.
Right.
It's the Buddy Joseph Show. There he is. Come on, Buddy, do 5 minutes.
Wait till he finds out. He's,
hey, what did I do? What do you want from me?
1-2 to Cal Ripken. 2-2. Well, the word is out. We're dark shirts.
That's right. Oh, Buddy, of all people.
Cal Ripken, remember his streak, over 6,500 consecutive innings. High drive into deep left field. Back goes Downing. She is gone.
Looked like a high fastball. And there it is, boy, right in the old, down the middle, right in the kitchen.
Well, it shows you Cal Ripken went 16 games without hitting a home run. He hit one last night, and it's habit forming. He comes right back and jerks one out today, and it's 2-1 Angels. Marcel Latchman played a very quick visit to the mound, and Ray Chadwick has now gotten his feet wet, and Eddie Murray, who has been the cause celebre here in Baltimore for a while, will check in. Boy, he's become quite a subject of discussion.
He's been the star of the talk shows, that's for sure.
Eddie hasn't had any long ball. He's had a very bad ankle. He's also had a hamstring. He's had just 1 home run in over 24 games. Ball 1.
He had some eye problem too, man, trying contacts or glasses.
The other night he made a mistake. Ground ball got off Joyner's glove, bobbled by Gritch, and he kind of stopped running to first, and the Wolves really got on him. 1-1. But of course we were talking about E. Bennett Williams before, and the boss got on him as well by also getting on Floyd Rayford.
He didn't like that at all.
No. 1 ball, 1 strike. Ball 2. What Baltimore needs is to go back to the history book and read about 1974. Because that was quite a comeback club to win the East. In 1974, August 29th, Baltimore was 8 games behind Boston. They went on a tear, won the East, and during the tear, they had 5 shutouts. On the corner. So it is 3-2, and Eddie had already thrown his bat away.
You be the umpire.
Ball 4.
Strike 1. I agree with strike 2, rather. Looked like it was high outside.
Yeah. 3-2 to Eddie. On deck, Jim Traber, who's become as big a story as crab cakes here. Now that's got to be ball 4.
Oh, did you see him getting that look? Why don't you call that a strike? He'll catalog that one. Watch when he takes his pitch what he does. Yeah,
well,
call that a strike.
That's a Jack Benny look. Well, all right, Eddie Murray is at first with 2 out. It is 2-1 Angels. Tim Welke is the plate umpire, and the batter is Jim Traber. He's the kid who went up when Murray went on the disabled list. He had 8 home runs and 22 RBIs in 17 games. The former quarterback at Oklahoma State. And he drives one into deep right center. Back goes Hendrick to the wall. Gone.
Curveball, and he really timed it perfectly. 32 RBIs in 32 games. As Vince said, a quarterback at Oklahoma State, he says, I like to be in the middle of things. Like a quarterback, if you win, they love you. If you lose, they hate you. He said, I like to be in the middle, and he certainly is on that one.
And the first pitch to Dwyer inside, ball 1. What's nice for Jim Traber, he's a Maryland boy, although he was born in Ohio. He grew up and still lives in Columbia, Maryland. In fact, once Traber sang the national anthem at Memorial Stadium, the night he made his big league debut last September the 21st. And he has sung the anthem before many of his minor league games.
And he's at the lead in Oklahoma, so the spotlight is no stranger to him. He's quite a young man. Of course, they wanted him to sing again. He said, I came up here to play this time, not to sing.
Right. Fouled away, out of play, and the count 1-2. Jim Dwyer battling young Ray Chadwick. It is 3-2 Baltimore. Dwyer was a big man last night. He had a game-tying pinch hit double in the 8th inning. Because he's a big man coming off the bench. He's playing today. He has a good role model to follow in Terry Crowley. Fouled away. He leads the American League pinch hitters in a lot of categories. And half of his RBIs have really been clutch or game winners. And waiting on deck is Larry Sheets. 1-2. 2-2. Well, we have a noisy beginning here. The Angels had 4 hits, including a double by Bobby Grich, jumped out in front 2-0. And Baltimore comes back with home runs by Ripken and Traber to take a 3-2 lead. And a key now to the inning is Gutierrez being erased when Freddie Lynn struck out. Ball 3. Well, there they are, the boys who brought the Birds right back into the game. Ripken and Traber. Well, he is struggling. Young Ray Chadwick. We won't have to stop the presses for that. Cincinnati jumping out in front. The Reds 9 back of Houston.
You see the bullpen getting ready. Latchman motioning with his left hand. Chadwick is throwing just mostly fastballs and a curveball. He has not changed speeds at all. You can see Booney is trying to find a groove for him, and As he said, I'll get a fastball, but he's got to put it where we want it.
Larry Sheets, and ball 1.
That was a curveball, Ben. You can see how bad that was. It just so much slower than his fastball and hardly broke. Trying to settle him down. Don't overthrow. Be yourself. Give me the ball where I ask and see what happens.
Chuck Finley down in the bullpen. And of course, remember, Chadwick did not get out of the first inning in his last start. He faced 5 hitters and all 5 reached base. And this is his first time since that game going back on the mound. Now, that game was the 3rd of August. So among other things, he is pressing. And almost 3 weeks have gone by since he pitched. So he's going to have a lot of trouble. 2-1. 2 balls, 1 strike. High fly ball into shallow left. Schofield was looking for Downing, and Bryan is there. So Baltimore comes roaring back with 3 at the end of an inning. 3-2 Orioles. Well, a consolation perhaps to Ray Chadwick. It was indeed a tough first inning, but he survived it. And his ball club is still very much in the game, trailing by 1. But he worked awfully hard in that first inning.
And he did. And if you're counting pitches, he made 33 pitches in that first inning. And that is plenty of pitches.
Well, as Mark lookouts from under the bill of his cap, it'll be Gary Pettis, Bob Boone, and Rich Burleson in that order. Pettis, an excellent offensive weapon, and particularly moving up and down the lineup from leadoff to the number 8 slot where he is today. He scored 10 runs in his last 10 games. Big thing for Pettis, of course, is to make contact. He strikes out 100 times. If he ever cuts that down, he could be a holy terror. Fouled away.
They'd like to see him bunt a little bit more. Rayford at third base shortens up, but Pettis doesn't bunt that much yet. Once he gets that facet of his game down, he'll really be tough.
His numbers are a little bit better from this side of the plate, hitting .275 as a right-handed batter. 0-1. Curve ball hit to third. Right there to chew it up is Floyd Rayford. See where Rayford was saying, now that he's been called back from Rochester, he had a big hit last night. But Floyd was saying, I really think my position is catcher.
He's built like a catcher, that's for sure.
Like a backstop.
Yeah.
Well, here's Bob Boone, who already made a play when he threw out Gutierrez.
But if you can hit, they'll find a place for you, because you can shake a tree and a glove will fall out. Those bats are hard to find.
Ball 1. Boone just seems to be getting better as he gets older. He has 7 home runs this year. He hadn't hit that many since he had 9 3 years ago.
And the guy that's been working with him, Vin, is Moose Stupin, who gets very little credit. He's been working with all of them, a tireless worker.
And a drive to right center field. However, Dwyer got a good jump on the ball. Made the play. Dwyer was in motion as soon as that bat and ball made contact. 2 down.
Big Moose is a career baseball guy. One of those guys spent a lot of time in the minor leagues and came up to the Angels when they brought up people like Schofield because he saw him have good years, kind of babysit him, and just a tireless guy. And they got a couple of them on there. Bob Clear is one. Marcel Latchman. Guys who've been around baseball a long time and finally get to the big leagues.
Where's Rich Burleson? He started things off with a base hit to right field. He's been very hot, hitting around .330 for a month. 1-1 to count. So Mike Flanagan, after a rocky beginning where he gave up 3 singles and a double, struck out Schofield to end the first inning. Off speed, 2-1. Burleson has been very valuable. He's played second, short, third, and DH. Good man to have around. Hit a little looper right at second baseman Gutierrez, and that bat is broken and will never be used again. And at the end of an inning and a half, 3-2 Baltimore. The Orioles leading the Angels 3-2 in the bottom of the second inning. It'll be Floyd Rayford, followed by John Stefero, and then Jackie Gutierrez. On a warm, muggy day in Baltimore, a light breeze blowing out towards right field. The Orioles have won 4 of the 7 games from the Angels this year. In fact, Baltimore hasn't lost a season series to the Angels since '78, so they're kind of accustomed to beating them. 1 ball and no strikes to Floyd. Foul back. We talked about each team having a lot of men in the leadoff role. The Orioles have had 8 players play third base this year. Rayford, Gutierrez, then Bonilla, O'Malley, Harris, Benitez, Hudler, and Don. That has really been a troublesome spot. 1 ball and 1 strike. Ball 2. Ray Chadwick trying to come back after a very rough first inning, nearly disastrous for him.
The lady behind home plate's a walking Bible. I know you've noticed that she had John 3-3 on. Now she's got the Romans or something on.
I see that. 2-1. Good fastball. 2-2.
I'm not that familiar with that Bible.
I thought it was a score.
Well, the Romans are beating John 6-2.
And another one.
Good fastball, that one.
So Floyd Rayford strikes out, 1 away. Chadwick trying to settle down a little bit, and John Stefero, the catcher, coming up. It's 3-2 Baltimore, bottom of the second inning. Stefero followed by Gutierrez. Ball 1. For Baltimore, they were very much into the race as of August the 5th. If you remember, on the 5th of August, they were only 2.5 games behind the Red Sox. And then Earl Weaver lost a disastrous game. In fact, he lost a couple with huge leads against Texas. Remember, they became the first team in history to hit 2 grand slams in a game and lose. They hit them in the inning. Texas came back with one of their own to beat them, and down goes Stefero. That's 3 strikeouts.
They're having trouble with their catching. Dempsey and Stefero combined are under 200. It's not much production at all.
No. He's got a great record, and he could still move them back a bit. He lost Don Ozzie for a little while, but Ozzie is sound again. Set the Angels down in order last night. Right. Gutierrez began the game for Baltimore with a single to right, but was doubled up when Fred Lynn struck out.
Oh, he didn't want to swing at that no more than I did. It was under his chin, and you can see he started, and he may have even hurt his hand trying to stop that swing. Now watch how he swings and where the ball is.
Way up and in. Strike 2. Pound said breaking ball. 1-2 the count. Cleveland leading Boston 4-1. Joe Carter hit his 20th. Remember, Cleveland yet to beat Boston this year. The Red Sox have beaten the Indians 8 straight times. Look out. Oh, that had to hurt. That was a fastball, and he was drilled.
Oh. Umpire walking out between them. There's no way that he was throwing at anybody. It just got away from him because he's got a big 2-strike count. He's going to overthrow it, and there's nothing Gutierrez could do but stand there and get hit. If you're going to get hit, that's where you want to get hit. It'll just hurt you when you go to the movies and have to sit down.
Gutierrez hammered by a fastball, and the batter will be Fred Lynn. Lynn struck out in the first inning, and Gutierrez was doubled up at second base. Fouled away off third, out of play, and the count 0-1. One of the shocking things about Baltimore, they're in the American League Eastern Division. They can't beat the East at home. You would think that they'd give their division teams a bad time here. They've only won 8 games against the East here at Memorial Stadium while losing 18. There goes the runner. The pitch outside, the throw, he's stolen it.
He didn't have a chance to get him because Chadwick never even looked. As he came set, he just came right to the plate, and Gutierrez had a walking lead off first base, and it was just a lack of concentration.
Watch, though. Boone thought he had him anyway. He walked right away from home plate on the throw. There he goes.
Yeah,
he walked a good 15 feet away.
He had no chance.
No. I guess Bob's just getting so accustomed to throwing runners out, he thinks he gets them all the time.
Yeah, good way to feel.
You can't call him a terror on the base paths, but he represents a run now for Lynn to pick up. It's 3-2 Baltimore, bottom of the second. Little ground ball to short. Back to get it is Schofield. A flip pulls Joyner off the bag. And look out now. That brings up Ripken with runners at first and third.
Get a manager, he knows what he did, and he did it wrong. He just flips that ball. With that arm of his, there's no reason he should flip that ball. He had time to straighten up and gun it, and it just sailed away from him. Error all the way on Schofield.
And, of course, an error for the Angels is a surprise, as you can see. So first and third with 2 out in the second inning, and Baltimore leading 3-2. Ripken hit a home run in the first inning. Chopper to Schofield. He'll go the short way to Gritch, and they get the force on Lynn, and that's that. So at the end of 2, Baltimore 3, Angels 2. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. Reggie Jackson is 40 years old now. He came up to the big leagues in 1968 at Oakland. Played in 1976 for Baltimore and hit 27 home runs. And yesterday was inducted into a special club at the Babe Ruth Museum here in Baltimore, along with Frank Robinson, the 500 Club. Those men who have hit over 500 home runs. Babe Ruth, as you probably know, was from a Baltimore orphanage. Right.
Jimmy Fox was another one who was in the old XX.
From Sutterville.
There's Frank Robinson. That's an elite group. 500 home runs, Hall of Fame credentials.
Little foul ball off third. That'll be out of play. No chance for Rayford, and the count 1-2. You might want to get the dimensions of Memorial. It's not as if we hang out here every week. It's only 309 feet down the line. Then it falls away to 376, 387, and in straightaway center, 405. Hard one at short, but Ripken is right there. So Joyner rolls out on a ground ball to Ripken, 1 down. And the batter will be Brian Downing.
This ballpark, when you point out the dimensions, Ben, can give you some trouble in both corners because there's not a whole lot of room in foul territory. You have to be careful when that ball's hit down there. It could carry him and just hug that wall. There you see it.
Yeah.
And get away from you. And those are some tomato plants you see out there, I think.
Downing popped it up in the first inning. Strike.
There they are. Pat Santarone, the groundskeeper, and Weaver used to have contests here. Santarone used to give me some of those homegrown tomatoes, but I haven't seen him yet.
1 ball and 1 strike to count to Brian Downing. Downing has been hit 14 times this year. Of course, that pales in comparison to Don Baylor, but still being nailed a few times. 1-2. Baylor has been hit 25 times so far. 3-2 in favor of Baltimore. Top of the third inning. Flanagan with a record of 6-8. Scotty McGregor is struggling. In fact, it's interesting to see McGregor bypassed for this series. That takes care of Downing, because McGregor lifetime against the Angels is 18-7, and yet Weaver did not use him in his planning against the Angels. With McGregor 8-11 and Flanagan 6-8, you have the unhappy prospect here, each heading for the first losing season of their careers. Flanagan has had 7 full years in the majors, never lost, and McGregor 8, but they're both under 500 so far. And they have each spent their entire big league careers with Baltimore. Here's Doug DeCinces, single to left field in the first inning. Change, ball one. Ground ball to the hole. Ripken is up with it. And that's that. An easy inning, and Flanagan now on the beam has retired 7 in a row, and it's 3-2 Baltimore.
They look like fans, but the fella in the front there with the dark glasses with the scorecards, Al Cuccinello, scout for the Yankees, and right behind him is Frank Scaff with the cap on, Detroit, and Ed Liberatore of the Dodgers. There's Frank Scaff making their notes, and Ed Liberatore.
And the men they're looking at, Eddie Murray, Jim Traber, and Jim Dwyer in that order in the bottom of the third inning. 3-2 in favor of Baltimore.
Then I thought maybe Johnny Noon would be down there. Johnny, who managed, and of course a big leaguer who had an unassisted triple play, was up here, and I thought he was down there with him. But we had a nice visit with him. It was good to see him. 85 years old, John.
Ball one to Eddie Murray, who walked in the first inning, and then Traber followed with a home run, and that gave Baltimore the current 3-2 lead. It's interesting to see the home runs by Ripken and Murray in the first inning. Not Murray, Traber. We were talking before about Baltimore had 9 men who hit 10 or more home runs last year. The Angels figure to have 8 this year. Here's the 2-0 pitch. Show you how long and how far Baltimore has come. In 1954, Baltimore didn't have anybody on the team who hit 10 home runs. That's the last team to have a quiet offense like that. High foul out of play. Last year, the O's led the American League in home runs. They have 6 men who have hit 10 or more. 2-2 to Eddie Murray. Sounded like a busted bat. It is, and it's a flare for a base hit. Eddie Murray wound up with the handle in his hands. He just dropped it near home plate, and he gets a broken bat single to left field. There go the pieces.
Take that big swing, and if you don't hit on the sweet spot, you'll see what happens. And there goes half the bat. The other half, as you point out, Ben, he had it. Interesting to see how they start Traber off. He hit the first pitch for a curveball for a home run. Let's see what they do this time.
You see that gesture by Murray as if to say, he said, what can I tell you? What can I tell you?
Look like a line drive tomorrow.
Traber hit a home run in the first inning, pops this one in the air back a shortstop. Schofield out, Downing coming up, and it's Brian Downing.
Fastball.
So 1 away, Murray holding at first, and Jim Dwyer coming up. Jim walked in the first inning. For Baltimore, trying to get well, they still have 6 games left with Boston. The Angels, meanwhile, have 7 remaining with Texas. Dwyer, the right fielder, with Murray at first and 1 out, and he pops it up. And it'll be Schofield for the second out. From the looks of things, that high fastball, he's a fly ball pitcher, huh?
It's moving pretty good because they are popping it up. Yeah, he's throwing a lot of fastballs. I started to say Schofield, it was so high, he looked to see where the runner was. He had some ideas. If Dwyer doesn't run it out, he was having maybe trap it, which we saw him do before.
Yeah, the only time when we saw him trap it was a line drive and the umpire disallowed.
Yeah, right.
Larry Sheets flied to left field in the first inning. He's 0 for 1. And he lifts a fly ball to right field. George Hendrick is there. A base hit and nothing else. And at the end of 3-2 Baltimore.
Your attention, please. Ladies and gentlemen, 3, 2, 7.
Very colorful career as manager of Baltimore began in 1968. He has been kicked out of games 96 times, 3 times this year. He's been kicked out of a spring training exhibition game. He was kicked out of a World Series game in 1969. He's been suspended 6 times. And he has been kicked out of both games of a doubleheader twice in his career. Otherwise, you'd never know he's around. Hendrick, a little foul ball. Traber makes the play. That's Kenny Rowe and Earl Weaver in the dugout.
I think when I see that, of all the years I've been around, the best line I've ever heard described was Mrs. Pinella when she saw her husband get kicked out in Cleveland when Lou was kicking the dirt. She said, "I'm 43 years old and I'm married to a 4-year-old." That says it all. Congratulations to her.
Strike. You know, Gene Mauch is a low-key manager as far as when he engages an umpire. One of the stories, whether apocryphal or otherwise, about Mauch, he supposedly went to a plate umpire one day. Here's the strike 1 pitch. Strike 2. He went to an umpire one day. He said, "If I called you a dirty name, will you kick me out of the game?" The umpire said, "Yes." He said, "If I just think that you're a dirty name, would you kick me out of the game?" The umpire said, "No." He said, "Well, I think you're a no-good, rotten, ragging brat." And he threw him out. 0-2. 1 out in the 4th inning. It is 3-2 Baltimore, all the scoring in the 1st inning. In the dirt to the screen. 8 in a row retired by Mike Flanagan. John Stefero handling him behind the plate. California had 4 hits for 2 runs in the 1st inning. The O's had 2 home runs by Ripken and Traber for 3 runs. There's a cracked bat and a ground ball to the right side to Gutierrez.
He lost everything, including the batting glove, I think. I don't know what he's going to pick up. It looks like a batting glove popped out of there.
Too much equipment.
Oh,
sunglasses.
Glasses. Yeah. That was strange. Slider inside off the handle. It snakes down there. It looks like it's an easy play. And then,
you know, I was just going to say, do you see where he had his glasses? He has them on top of the cap. Now, what good are they up there? They just get in your way if you bend over, right?
Yeah.
That's not exactly heads up to wear your glasses up there. I mean, you're not wearing them, really, so why have them on?
It's a wonder you didn't pick up the glasses and throw them to first base.
You know, there was a kind of an error you can't expect to see in the big leagues, but they are human beings, and here's Dick Schofield. How about that, huh? Does that come as a shock? So Gritch aboard on the error with 1 out in the 4th inning. 3-2 Baltimore. Beaten foul. 0-2. Bobby Gritch representing the tying run. Gritch over at first came up to Baltimore in 1970, and he stayed here through 76, and he came over to the Angels in 77. Just looking at Gutierrez, I think he has finally taken the sunglasses off the top of his cap. Yeah, I mean, that was just asking for trouble. He's probably got them on, and they're under the bill. Yeah, well, that makes sense. But when they're on the top, you can't flip them down, so why have them on your head? Whoa. So Schofield goes chasing.
Take another look. That's the pitch that he's been using. It's a let-up pitch. He turns it over. It's outside the strike zone, and Schofield really chases a bad pitch. It's made his fastball very effective, and he's using it quite a bit.
Flanagan picks up his 3rd strikeout. And Mike not going to work on Gary Pettis.
A couple balloons out by second base. Gutierrez. Whoop, he just stepped on one. That's what Pettis is looking at there. You see the other one floating up.
They didn't fall out of his pocket, did they?
No.
Okay, I didn't know whether he was having a party down there or what. Well, here's Gary Pettis, who grounded to third in the second inning. Off speed for a strike.
Rayford really charging hard from third base, trying to cut down the possibility of the bunt. There you see how shallow he's playing.
One ball, one strike. And looking at Mike Flanagan, in his last game against Cleveland, he lost a tough one 2-1, but he struck out 8. That's his strikeout high of the year. He only has 3 so far today. And another one of those shot putters.
You know, when the fellow's having an off year, I always look at the strikeouts, walks, the relationship. He's 75 strikeouts, 51 walks before the game. That's not very good at all.
No, well, you know, he's not the same with that DL time, with tendonitis, etc. Of course, Scotty McGregor had a 4-year extension of his contract, and he's been under 500 since. So there are two fellows who mean a great deal to this ball club. There's a base hit to center, and stopping at second is Gritch. So we'll see if that error by Gutierrez is cashed in this inning. You know, one thing about that error, and a lot of times if you get the last out in the inning following an error, you say, well, they got away with it. But it's not true, because the error has an extra man coming up who would not be coming up except for your error. And it's like giving somebody the extra swing, and sooner or later it usually costs you. Well, here's Bob Boone, who hit the ball hard, lined out to right in the second inning.
Well, you'd certainly rather have Boone leading off an inning if you were the opposition than closing it.
And how? Even if he doesn't do well with Flanagan, you don't want to look at him now. A strike.
In batting practice, he was hitting the ball up the middle and in right center field.
And the drive he hit was to right field, almost right center, in the second inning. And maybe he's thinking that Flanagan over the year or two has pitched him away, so Mike decided he had better come in with that pitch.
Well, he tried to move him off the plate. You'd almost think that Boone would be looking for that off-speed pitch that he's been thrown to the outside part of the plate.
Gritch and Pettis out on the lines with 2 out. Fastball missed. 2 balls, 1 strike.
Just play along with it. If you were in the batter's box now, you were guessing that other pitch, you'd have ball 2. I'd guess for it now, and this is what hitters do. If you get it, you rip it. If not, you take it. I'd look for an off-speed pitch.
2-1. Fastball.
But it was outside, so I'd take it all away. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be right. That's what I'm saying.
Hey, you hit 257 in the big leagues, lifetime career. I'm with you.
I had a great year guessing.
Listen, hey, 257. I'd like to represent you today.
You certainly would.
3-1. Down the pipe. 3-2.
Taken all away. That was a surprise.
You and Whitey Herzog hit 257.
Exactly. A lot of key hits, too.
Yeah, sure.
I'll tell you that.
Well, the runners will be going. Gritch from second, Pettis from first. 2 down. Top of the 4th, 3-2 Baltimore. A big pitch for Flanagan. Not to mention Boone. Runners go. Ball 4 to load him up. And Rick Burleson will be coming up. So Boone is at first, Pettis to second, Gritch to third, all because of that foolish error. And I say foolish because it's easy to kick a ground ball. That's understandable. But why a guy would stand at second base wearing his glasses on top of his cap, so when he bends over, the glasses fall? That's a foolish error.
Burleson hit the first pitch the first time up, the third pitch the second time up. You have to be careful with this one. He just walked the man. He'll want to get ahead, and Burleson could be sitting on it. This is a big pitch.
And he's gone the other way twice with McGregor. Ball 1 with the change. He singled to right field on the first pitch of the game. In the second inning, he went the other way and looped out to Gutierrez. You can see Cleveland leading Boston. Game was temporarily delayed due to rain, but they've resumed. 1 ball and no strikes. Now he's digging a hole. 2 balls and no strikes. For the second time today, Odell Jones gets up in the pen, and Kenny Rowe goes out to the mound.
Looked like he's been trying to hit that corner, and it's getting him in trouble. Boone took 3 in 1 pitch, and then the first pitch to Burleson was way outside as we look at Odell Jones. So Ken Rowe is out there to find out what's going on. What is he thinking? Because he has to do one thing, and that is throw strikes.
Here's the play in the inning. And watch, you will see Gutierrez fumble, and then the glasses fall off his head, and he's had it. And Flanagan is trying to recover from that play, and I'm sure so is Gutierrez. So Boone at first, Pettis at second, Gritch at third. And here's Burleson. 2 balls and no strikes. High pop fly, and it will be Ripken. Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. It should have been Gutierrez who could have brought his sunglasses down and caught the ball. Sometimes things just don't work out. Tomorrow, NBC Sports World travels to the fabulous French Riviera to bring you a live scheduled 15-round IBF Junior Middleweight Championship bout. One-time champ Davey Moore collides with reigning IBF titleist power puncher Buster Drayton. So join Marv Albert and the Fight Doctor as they bring you exciting ringside action tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern Daylight, 3:30 in Los Angeles on NBC Sports World. We're going to the bottom of the 4th inning with Baltimore holding on to a 3-2 lead. And it'll be Floyd Rayford, followed by John Stefero, and then Jackie Gutierrez. Chadwick has certainly cut down on his pitches, hasn't he? Look at that fall off. And in the 3rd inning, he gave up a base hit. We'd like to remind our viewers we'll be selecting the NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game at the conclusion of the ballgame. Rayford struck out in the 2nd inning. A one-hopper and a nice stop by Schofield to get him. Boy, that thing was drilled. Big league play, 1 away.
Chadwick relying on that fastball, and you just wonder how long can he continue to throw that fastball without somebody really pumping one. He's throwing fastball and curve, but he's had control of the fastball. He hadn't had good control of that curve.
Well, John Stefero will test him now. John struck out in the 2nd inning, goes the other way, foul down the line, 0-1. You know, earlier we were showing you the dimensions of Memorial Stadium, and we were showing you all the jogs and the fence in the outfield. This is the toughest ballpark for whatever reason, probably the jogs, for triples. In fact, Baltimore has hit just 1 triple at home this year, and the fellow who hit it isn't here anymore, Alan Wiggins. Foul back, 0-2.
It's a good example of what we're talking about, Ben. That's 4 pitches, 4 fastballs. You know, I was just looking at this ballpark. You think with those crevices in there that maybe one of them would take a crazy bounce. I wonder if it's a lack of speed, but then the other ball clubs are not hitting triples either.
Yeah, there's only been 11 triples hit in this ballpark all year. But the amazing thing, the home team has hit 1. Of course, Baltimore does not run much anyway. They hardly have any running game and not much speed. 1-2 the count to Stefero.
Weaver talks about, hey, you only get 27 outs. I'm not going to give it up by getting somebody thrown out or a bunt. He likes those 3-run homer strategy innings.
That's an interesting point. There's a drive to center, but Gary Pettis is going to put that in the ball bag. By trying to get that 3-run home run, by disdaining the sacrifice, you have one big problem. You're going to ground into double plays. Remember, this is a ball club that doesn't run. And so the Baltimore Orioles lead the American League in grounding into double plays. 2 down, and Jackie Gutierrez coming up. In fact, they not only lead the American League, they lead the major leagues. 4-1. And we mentioned Alan Wiggins. That name has to be a sore spot for E. Bennett Williams. He talks about paying alimony. He has Wiggins drawing $600,000 this year playing in the minors with a $1.5 million contract for 2 years. He's paying Wayne Gross $400,000. He's paying Dan Ford $350,000. And he's paying Tippy Martinez $350,000. It's a lot of money for people who are not playing. Little number foul.
Ought to make a conference call with Ted Turner. He can throw in Lem Barker, call Pittsburgh and the Steve Kemps. And there's a whole list of guys. I mean, it's a whole new economy out there.
Two balls and one strike. The count to Jackie Gutierrez. Singled, hit by a pitch. On deck, Freddie Lynn. All three. Remember, Gutierrez swung at a bad ball up and then was hit on the side. And it looks like Chadwick's pattern is to keep the ball up and in on him. 3-1. Fly ball to shallow right. George Hendrick is there. 6 in a row retired by Chadwick. It's still 3-2 Baltimore. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. There's Rupert Jones.
My favorite guys. Look at him. I talked to him. Smile. See, he was chewing that snuff before, and I showed him an article, and he threw it away. And he said he's not going to chew it anymore.
Good.
And look at that nice head he's got. Did you know they came in different colors?
No, I see now.
Yeah.
He's just taller now. He grew through his hair.
That's right.
Yeah, he's 31 years old.
One of my favorite guys.
0-1 to count to Wally Joyner, followed by Brian Downing, Doug DeCinces. They're the big guys in the ribbies. Joyner today hit into a force play and grounded to short. Big breaking ball. 1-1. Baltimore 3 runs, 4 hits. The Angels 2 runs, 5 hits. Joyner holding the Angel RBI record for a rookie, formerly held by Lee Thomas, who did it a year before Wally was born. Time, no pitch.
They used to always get umpires mad when they hollered time and somebody say 343. Boy, they'd get mad.
Well, Cleveland's making the Red Sox mad. 4-1 in the 7th. 2-1 to count to Wally Joyner. The Angels have just come off a very successful homestand. They won 8 out of 10. They went from 1.5 in front to 5. Now they're 4. They're in the middle of a 3-week period playing Detroit, Baltimore, and they'll finish up this road trip against the Yankees. The last 2 years, the Angels saw it get away in the final week. There's a little looper, and it'll go right to Gutierrez. So that's the way it looks starting the 23rd with Texas 4 back.
The magic number for California in their minds is if they can win 90 games. They figure if they win 90 games, they don't care what anybody else does.
Gene Mauch was quoted as saying, I don't have to worry about a team that has to score 9 and 10 runs to win a game. And interestingly enough, prior to last night, Texas had allowed more runs in 16 games than the Angels had allowed in their last 31 games. That gives you an insight into those two teams. The Angel pitching staff, discounting last night's game, has been super the last couple of months. 0-2 to Downing. On the hands, a little fly ball. Lynn hesitated, but he's going to pick it off.
Those California teams are getting those Texas teams a little riled. Gene Mauch with that, and Lasorda saying that Houston was just renting first place.
Yeah, until the Dodgers and Lasorda went to Houston. And then the Astros served the Dodgers the eviction notice.
That's right. So we just picked up the option, Tommy.
They had a big banner in the Astrodome, and it said, hey, Tommy, you got a better chance of winning the lottery. Here's Doug DeCinces. Single, grounded out. DeCinces and Grich know what it's like. It's a high foul off third. Rayford almost fell down, but he now backs off for Ripken.
They both looked away.
And at the end of 4.5, 3-2 Baltimore.
The thing about this play, not only does Rayford almost fall down, but now watch him look away and watch Ripken look away. There's Ripken looking away. Rayford looks at him. Ripken looks at him and says, hey, one of us has got to catch it. That's how high that ball was hit.
High and treacherous underfooting. And now we're going to see Lynn, Ripken, and Murray coming up in the bottom of the 5th inning. Baltimore leading 3-2. It's kind of a shock to see these three in the lineup. They are the core of the Baltimore attack. But all three of them did not have an RBI in the same game until last week. 115 games went by. Ball 2. Lynn, Ripken, Murray. Freddie has struck out, reached on an error. 2-1. Lynn with 20 home runs, 63 RBIs. He's had 20 or more 5 straight years. Checking bats out. Eddie Murray hitting 3rd in the inning. Slicing fly ball to left. Downing working his way into the corner, and it's going to go foul. Foul ball. Vic Voltaggio way down the line. That just missed. Those must be tough areas for umpires with all the angles and lines.
Downing, hey, that is awful close.
Yeah.
Awful close. Can't tell where it hit. Oh, it hit off the side there, yeah.
Kind of a highlight play.
Yeah. Downing didn't have much room. Just not a whole lot of room there.
Well, Voltaggio, realizing it's a tough park, way down the line. He was in perfect position. 3-2 to Fred Lynn.
Well, we take a lot of things for granted, but it's only been recent times we have the 3-foot screen on the foul pole, the yellow lines.
Ground foul. Remember, they put the basket on the wall at Wrigley Field, Chicago, because fans would lean over. I guess of all the places in the big leagues, the nightmare of the nightmare was in those days when baseball was played in the Coliseum in Los Angeles. Because you had this big screen in left field and a girder, and then you had wires that were supporting and attaching the screen to the girder, and boy, you talk about rhubarbs. 3-2 to Lynn. 3-2 Baltimore. Bottom of the 5th. Fastball in a good spot. Lynn was looking, I think, inside, and he just did get a piece of that outside fastball and fouled it off.
Tell you, Boone has done some job with this young fella, staying with that fastball and moving it around.
And another one pulled foul. Well, Freddie said he couldn't pull because he had a sore shoulder, but he jumped on that one.
He's been moving him in and out, in and out. He has not had a real good curveball. He's had no change of pace at all to speak of.
And he got a hold of that one. A towering fly ball to right field. Hendrick in the corner. Gone.
It's been fastball, 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 and Booney's been trying to move it around, and Lynn, he knows it's gone.
So Ray Chadwick has given up home runs to Cal Ripken, to Jim Traber with a man aboard, and now to Freddie Lynn. And it is 4-2 Baltimore. As Lynn cools off, Cal Ripken takes the strike. So each side with 5 hits, but what a difference. One ball, one strike. Interesting how Freddie Lynn was kind of reading the location of pitches. Remember, we told you he was a little fooled on the fastball away. He kept looking for that ball inside. The next one he pulled foul. He got another one inside, and he hit the home run to right.
And it looked like he never thought it was going to be anything but a fastball.
Little dunker back of first base. Joyner can't get it. And since he falls down, Ripken's going for 2, and he's out from me to you. Even though pretty fancy footwork by Cal, trying to avoid Schofield's tag.
Joyner really recovered well. It didn't look like he was going to be able to make the play. Ripken thought that and took off. Now watch what happens here. It's got English on it. Down goes Joyner. That's when Ripken makes the decision. But look at that ball. It was in near his elbow. And now Ripken stops his slide. He knows he's out by 40 feet. Now watch him stop his slide and try to tiptoe over him. But he got him.
He got him with the back of the hand. Right there.
Just barely got him. That wasn't a bad play by Ripken.
Oh, great. Here's Eddie Murray, walked and singled. 0-1. Eddie Murray hit 7 home runs the first 6 weeks of the season, and he has only had 5 home runs since. Of course, he's had a lot of troubles, as Cincinnati is not having any trouble with Chicago. Ground ball to third. DeCinces has time. 2 out.
That was a significant pitch, the one before that, because it was really the first off-speed curveball that the youngster's been able to get over, and you could see the effect it had on Murray on that fastball. He tried to check his swing and just tapped it to DeCinces. If he comes up with that pitch, that off-speed pitch, this kid's going to be tough.
Well, here's Jim Traver, who hit a 2-run home run in the first inning and flied to left in the third.
Boy, are they playing him to pull. DeCinces is almost at shortstop. Schofield is way over. If he hits a ball down, look at there.
That's as far as I've seen a third baseman off the line of any left-hand hitter I've ever seen. Now he's coming in a little bit. Ball 2.
They were talking about it before the game, and Gene Mauch, an infielder himself, he likes to see infielders show some imagination, and this is what they're doing. Now, DeCinces is setting himself, but he's breaking with the pitch. At least he did the last time.
Somebody hollered out of the Baltimore dugout to DeCinces, and he kind of gestured over there as if to say, hey, I'm following orders. That's the Angel dugout, but it's the Baltimore dugout that was hollering out at him. High drive to straightaway center. Pettis going back to the track. Leaping catch for the out. Woo, they're playing long fly ball. Hey, here's another edition of Characters of the Game. Saturday in the park. Mr. G and I have a question. Let's go back to 1946. We're talking about Doug DeCinces being so far off the line. You're the catcher for the Cardinals. Whitey Kurowski is the third baseman. Ted Williams is the hitter. Where are the Cardinals playing?
Well, that was a great shift that Mr. Eddie Dyer put on our manager. Williams, they wanted him to hit the ball to the opposite field because he was, you know, such a great pull hitter. So Kurowski was over between short and third by himself. Everybody else was on the right side.
Was Kurowski as far off the line as DeCinces is now?
No.
Wow.
No, he was not.
That's the point of the whole discussion.
Yeah, but the point, can I tell you something personally about that?
Hey, pal.
I got 4 hits in that game. Williams bunted. I thought I'd get a headline. Headline says Williams beats out bunt.
How could you take the camera off Joe when he was giving us one of the highlights of World Series history?
Highlight of my life.
Oh, my gosh. Are they rude?
Come to my house and I'll show you the film. Yeah, George Finkel.
Oh, what a shame.
And his mother's watching, unfortunately, from a hospital bed, but we hope she's feeling better. But Mrs. Finkel, you tell George never to do that again.
Yeah. Talk. For the Gary Pettis Marching and Chowder Society, this is the catch he made on Jim Traver. There have been other great plays, along with Joe going with 4 hits in the World Series. I was one of them. And now here's George Hendrick. 6th inning, 4-2 Baltimore. Foul back. George single to left, fouled out, 1 for 2.
I have to laugh when I think, because you want to talk about disappointment. I bought every paper in town.
Yeah.
Not that about the hits and the big headlines. Williams beats out bunt. Williams beats his shift. In the last paragraph, by the way.
0-1 to count. Talking about your great days or your bad days, one thing about George Hendrick, he doesn't figure to talk about either. He's about as quiet a man as around. He and Schofield probably have to scribble notes to each other. Fouled away. In fact, Bob Zuck, the scout for the A's, first saw George Hendrick playing in a Sandlot game in Watts, and he wanted to sign him, and Hendrick wouldn't even speak to him. And George home, and so Bob Zuck went after him, went to George's house, knocked on the door. He wouldn't talk to him. He said, but I want to sign you to the... Would not talk to him. You know how they got Mr. Hendrick to sign a contract to go with the A's? Yes, right. Mr. Charlie Finley, the owner of the club, had to drive into Watts in his Cadillac and go up to the front door and knock on it and say, "I'm Mr. Finley." That's how they got George. Otherwise, he wasn't speaking to anybody. 2-2.
Charlie O.
Line drive, and Rayford leaped too soon. I think Floyd was fooled on it, thinking the ball might be coming at him a fraction of a second sooner, and he was on his way down the ladder as the ball was sailing over his head. And it's a line drive double for George Hendrick. And the batter will be Bobby Grich.
Here's Rayford. George picked that right off the ground. Now up he goes.
And he's just starting down.
Yep. That's a lot of body to get up there.
So George is second. The tying run, oh, not now, it's 4-2 Baltimore. But the tying run is at the plate in Bobby Grich, who doubled and was aboard on the error. Each side with 6 hits, but the big difference, the Angels have a couple of doubles, and the O's have 3 home runs. Grich has been in first place 4 times in his career with Baltimore and California. DeCinces once with Baltimore and California.
Vin, just to go back to something you said earlier, we talked about how deep Hendrick and Grich were in a batter's box and their foot on that back line. There is no back line right now.
I know it. I cannot understand how they allow them to do it. They've been doing it since they played this game. They go to all the trouble of it. For instance, if you're the first baseman, when you went down and started to erase the foul line, they wouldn't let you get away with that. And I've always wondered why the umpires allow hitters to do that. Fouled away.
And you have to watch hitters, because what they'll do when the line is out, they'll put their heel on the line, and that's okay. But as the pitcher starts to deliver it, they'll turn their toe towards the mound, which means they're literally out of the batter's box. But the umpire can't be watching that, because he's got to watch the pitch. But how can you tell? You have to guess.
Then eventually a catcher will complain, and the umpire will take a bat and lay it on the ground as if it's the back line. Good heads-up swing that time. Trying to inside out it. 2-2. Good play, young lady.
She's not chewing. What is... I don't believe that.
Oh, no, that can't be. That's got to be a sour ball.
I hope so.
You know? It's not chewing tobacco.
Oh, no.
2-2. It's 4-2 Baltimore. We're in the top of the 6th. Hendrick has just doubled, and Grich up there 2-2. Comebacker. Flanagan will hold Hendrick. That takes care of Grich. So 1 away, and Dick Schofield, who has struck out twice, coming up.
Flanagan has had him chasing that off-speed pitch. He turns it over and outside the strike zone, and Schofield has been chasing it.
You know, looking at the Angel Ball Club, a tribute to them, they really had only one slump. That was in their first trip in Baltimore in late May. They lost 8 out of 9 on that trip. June 15th, they were tied for second, 3.5 games back of Texas. And then maybe the turning point of the year for California. That's going to be hit foul out of play. Charlie Huff of the Texas Rangers was pitching a no-hitter. Wally Joyner broke it up, and the Angels went on to win 6 straight from Texas. They moved into first place and have been there alone since the 7th of July. And remember, we said they had been tied with Kansas City the middle of June. Kansas City just disappeared. The Angels have picked up as much as 12 games in 2 months on Kansas City. 1-1. I was reading about the dog days of August. That's based on astronomy. It's the name of the star that comes up in August. Pop fly, crack bat. Coming over to get it is Jim Traver. That'll take care of Schofield. So 2 down, and Gary Pettis coming up. So Flanagan has done quite a job on Schofield. Strikes him out twice, jams him, breaks the bat, gets him to foul out. And here comes Pettis, who made the good play on the ball hit by Traber. Pettis grounded to third, single to center.
I thought Dog Days of August would be a term that second division teams would use.
Well, yeah, but it's originally a star that appears in August. Not, I think it's Circeus or Sirius, something like that. It's the dog star, and that's why they call August the Dog Days.
Now, are those cotton candy clouds or cerulean blue clouds?
I just, you know. Right, 0-1. He's number 1 on the Angels. Trying to get George Hendrick home. It's 4-2 Baltimore. We're in the 6th inning, 2 out. One ball, 1 strike. Mike Flanagan, after a very, very rocky first inning, has allowed just 2 hits since. A single to Pettis in the 4th and the double to Hendrick. He didn't look like he was going to survive the first inning when he gave up 4 hits, but now he's leading by 2. Two balls and 1 strike.
Tell you, I like that glove that Stefaro's using. You can hear that ball pop in here. That was not a fastball.
No,
It sounded
off
fast.
speed.
Yeah, I don't know what might have put some shoe polish in there to make it pop.
Line drive. Great play by Gutierrez. The Jackie makes a great one, and it's still 4-2 Baltimore.
Friday, the NFL plays here when the Los Angeles Rams battle the Denver Broncos. Preseason's greetings from NBC Sports.
Here's Jackie Gutierrez making a splendid play on that ball hit by Gary Pettis, and it saved a run from scoring and prevented the tying run from getting aboard. Now, as we go to the bottom of the 6th inning, Gene Mauch makes a move. Chuck Finley out of Monroe, Louisiana. He is only 23 years old, went to Northeast Louisiana State University. And he'll come in with a 1-0 record and pick up for Chadwick. Chadwick went 5 innings. Mauch saw him give up 3 home runs, and that's what hurt him. He walked 2, he hit a batter, struck out 3, gave up 5 hits and 4 earned runs.
92 pitches, 5 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks.
Like, we'll give him 6 hits. And now here's Chuck Finley. 4-2 Baltimore. He came back with 3, as you can see, in the first inning. Dwyer walked and popped up. Jim 0 for 1.
Right fielder, Jim Dwyer.
Right. It is interesting, Finley coming in to pick up for Chadwick, and Flanagan, who was a beleaguered left-hander in the first inning, is still in there. The Angels have twice as many complete games this year as the Orioles. One ball, 1 strike. Freddie Lynn, we told you, has that painful right shoulder. He said he can't pull the ball, and yet we did see him hit a home run to right. But he's icing that shoulder in between innings when he has a chance to rest. In looking at Lynn with that sore shoulder, Baltimore's had 9 different players on the disabled list, and the current one is Tippy Martinez. One away. So Finley takes care of Dwyer. Larry Sheets will be coming up. And a reminder, this telecast, presented by authority of Major League Baseball, may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Sheets flied to left, flied to right. He's an impressive looking fella, isn't he? Big, strong guy.
Both he and that Traber. I tell you, that Traber is the first time we've seen him, and he is really impressive.
Cleveland leading 4-1. Ernie Camacho has had to come in with 2 on, 1 out. Cleveland leading 4-1. We'll keep you posted. Larry Sheets is 6'3", 225 pounds. He majored in health and physical education and apparently passed with honors. Boy, he is put together.
This Finley can be tough on left-hand hitters. He's coming from about first base, and you can see both Dwyer, who went out on strikes, and Sheets just backing up a bit.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Ball 3. Sheets has the best RBI to at-bats ratio in the American League and second to Gary Carter in the majors. An RBI every 4.5 at-bats. 3-2. Line drive down the right field line. Base hit in the corner. Hendrick going over to get it. And Big Larry goes steaming into second base with a double.
Three and 2 came in with that fastball, and Sheets was ready. Good piece of hitting.
So Larry Sheets a 1-out double, and that will bring up Floyd Rayford.
Third baseman.
4 runs, 7 hits for Baltimore. 2 runs, 6 hits, and an error for the Angels. 3 home runs and a double for Baltimore. Rayford struck out and grounded to short. Ball 1. Rick Dempsey comes out on deck to bat for John Stefero. Dempsey struggling with the bat, hitting only .210, but he does have 11 home runs. Two balls and no strikes. Foul ball off first, slicing back into the crowd, and the count 2 balls and 1 strike. We have the paid attendance 25,370. 25,370. That's just about right on the button, an average game, as the O's get up to about a very close to 1,600,000. Strike. 2-2. Chuck Finley for starter Ray Chadwick. 2-2 to Rayford. They're going to check. Swing, says Dave Phillips, and that takes care of Rayford.
Here's the replay. Yep.
So Rick Dempsey will now come up and hit for John Stefero with 2 out, a runner at second. And Baltimore leading 4-2.
Rick Dempsey very popular here, and he gets a lot of that popularity just by his personality. When they have a rain out here, he goes out and entertains them.
Ball 1. Well, Boston coming back. It is 4-3 in favor of Cleveland. Remember, the Indians are yet to beat Boston this year. Boston has beaten them 8 straight times. Strike. Interesting in looking at Boston's mastery over Cleveland. Cleveland, the second greatest team in piling up victories. The 54 Indians won 111 teams. That year, they beat Baltimore 19 out of 22. Here's a two-hopper at second base, and Bobby Grich will take care of Dempsey. So we've got 6 innings in the books, 4-2 Baltimore. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. Join us next week on the NBC Game of the Week. Many of you will see the Dodgers at Shea Stadium against the New York Mets. Others will see the Cubs travel to Atlanta and take on the Atlanta Braves. Action gets underway at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight with Major League Baseball. An inside look. Check your local listings for the game in your area. Rick Dempsey hit the ball hard but grounded out to Bobby Grich, and now he puts on the gear. In the 7th inning, the Angels will have Bob Boone, Rick Burleson, and Wally Joyner.
Your attention, please. For the Orioles, now catching number 24, Rick Dempsey.
Mike Flanagan, as he prepares to work in the 7th inning on Bob Boone, has made 96 pitches up to here, and they're going to back him up in the pen. Rich Bordy begins to loosen up. Boone lined out to right and walked. Strike. One and one. Now Brad Havens, a left-hander, gets up to join Bordy in the bullpen. So Kenny Rowe talking to Earl Weaver, Kenny the pitching coach, watching Flanagan's every move. 1 ball, 1 strike. And it's hit into right field, so Boone opens up the inning with a single to right. And that means Burleson coming up as the tying run. Each side with 7 hits. The difference, the Orioles have hit 3 home runs. Bordy and Havens down in the pen. Burleson single to right, looped out to second, and popped up to short. 1 for 3. Strike. The Orioles snapped a 4-game losing streak coming from behind last night, trying to add to it today. One. Change. 1 ball, 1 strike. Final game of the series tomorrow here. Storm Davis and Kirk McCaskill. Little foul out of play. 2-2 to Rick Burleson with Wally Joyner on deck. Boone a short lead at first, and now 3-1 to count. They have changed the scoreboard. Now that's going to be ball 3. And now they are questioning the umpire, who's now holding up fingers. That makes it 3-2. So on the pitch that was outside, it appeared to be 3-1. They then switched it to 2-2, and now ball 3.
Would you start him?
I'm not sure. Let me. That's too late. Fouled away. Wouldn't be a bad idea. Burleson strikes out about 10% of the time. You don't have any speed, of course, with Boone at first.
I think I'd run him.
Yeah. I had to look up his strikeouts in the ratio. Boone not going the last time, 3-2. And he's not going now. Line drive, a one-hopper, backhanded by Rayford. Down to second, to first, not in time. Oh, what a play by Floyd Rayford.
tell you, that was a third baseman's play. He talks about being the catcher, but great reflexes. He sees the ball in the glove and says, I'll go to second base and make sure. It was close at first base, but not in time. Tremendous play by Rayford. That's the second great play they've made. Gutierrez had a beauty before.
The big problem at third base for Baltimore this year can best be explained by the fact that coming from that position, there have been more errors than RBIs, and we're talking about 8 players playing the position. But no error on that. A great play by Floyd Rayford, and now Wally Joyner, the batter. Ball 1. So in the inning, Boone is single to right, and Burleson loses a double. The Angels would easily have the tying runs at second and third. So that was a huge play. 1-0. Two balls and no strikes. The count to Wally Joyner. On deck, Brian Downing. High pop fly on the right side. It'll be Jim Traber calling, but Gutierrez has the ball come to him. So the key to the inning is still that great play by Floyd Rayford, and now Earl Weaver's going out to the mound, and let's see.
He's got 4 right-hand batters coming up to 5, 6. But you're worried about the next 2, Downing and DeSensei, and maybe Weaver's going to make a change at that. Trying to find out how his pitcher feels, but he may have made up his mind. He has.
Mike Flanagan has not gone 9 innings this year, 8 1/3 the most. He's gone 8 several times, and it looks like a 2-for-1 switch. We'll check. There you can see, as far as the Angel bench is concerned, all left-hand batters. So Rayford just went into the dugout for a moment, and Mike Flanagan heading for the hill. So we'll be back. Orioles 4, Angels 2. Mike Flanagan, a tough customer, particularly at Memorial Stadium. He came into this game with 6 wins and 8 losses, but his record at home, 4 wins and only 1 loss. Well, now he surrenders the ball to Rich Bordy. Bordy, a big guy. He is 6'7" and 220 with the Yankees last year. Downing 0 for 3. Right. Brian Downing popped up, struck out, flied to center. Rick Dempsey getting squared away, and you can see Cincinnati getting well in Chicago. Ron Cey hit his 12th home run of the year. Meanwhile, Cleveland trying to hang on. They're leading Boston 4-3 in the 9th inning. Big play of the inning and maybe of the game. That play by Floyd Rayford on the ball hit by Rick Burleson. Breaking ball missed. Bordy with a sinker, slider, curve ball, and a pretty good change. Foul ball. Four runs, 7 hits, 1 error for Baltimore, 2 runs, 7 hits, 1 error for the Angels. The Angels have a couple of doubles. Baltimore has 3 home runs by Lynn, Ripken, and Traber, and that's the difference. Hit him on the fists, and it's fouled away.
He had something on that one.
He's 6'7" and 220. So it's 6'7" from 60 feet away, standing on a 10-inch elevated mound. It must be something to stand up at the plate and look at him thrown out of the sky.
Just drops the ball. On the gun, it should be about 80.
And you figure, I guess, a man of his size, about a 3-foot stride. Anyway, he's right on top of it. Late in the game, especially in pressure spots, you really have to keep your eye on the pitcher as far as where that rubber is, don't you?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I mean, the rubber almost disappears in the dirt. Popped in the air, foul, off to the right and out of play.
There have been pitchers known to deliver and on their follow-through stand there, take the ball and pitch from where they caught the ball.
So they'd be pitching from 57 feet away.
And if it got to 3-2, they'd about knock your teeth out. See, the rubber, even now, it's almost covered. You can see it, but I mean, it doesn't really stick out like it does at the beginning of the game. There it is. Yes, he's smoothing it off, but they'd have tied.
Red Sox have caught him. Sacrifice fly by Wade Boggs. Picked up Ed Romero to get it even. There's 2 out, a run in the 9th, 4-4. Got him. So Brian Downing strikes out. Here's the big play that saved Baltimore's bacon by Floyd Rayford. It's still 4-2-0s. Here's another edition of the 7th inning stretch.
A leg up on all the rest, Nolan Ryan of the Houston Astros continues to add to his record-setting 4,000 strikeouts. At age 39, the K's continue for baseball's all-time leading strikeout artist. 5 no-hitters, 9 one-hitters, and 18 two-hitters for the Houston Astros' Special K, Nolan Ryan.
Little boys need a lot of help to learn to dance. And then they grow up to be bigger boys.
And they need a lot of help to dance. I tell you, they make the 7th inning stretch a real event here at Baltimore. I mean, rock and roll. Rick Dempsey and his crew were singing. It was something.
There was a whole lot of shaking going on. Meanwhile, it is 4-2 Baltimore in the 7th. And it'll be Jackie Gutierrez, Fred Lynn, and Cal Ripken against Chuck Finley. Ball 1. Gutierrez single to right, hit by a pitch, flied to right, got tangled up with his sunglasses in the 4th inning, and then made a diving catch of a shot by Gary Pettis. So he's figured prominently in the game. Strike. 1-1 to Jack. One and 2 to Jackie Gutierrez. Came to Baltimore in the deal that sent Sammy Stewart to Boston. And, of course, Boston has since traded Ray Quinones, Mike Brown, and Mike Trujillo, and picked up shortstop Spike Owen and Dave Henderson, an outfielder. 2-2. Jackie's dad was an athlete. He competed for Columbia in the javelin way back in the '36 Olympics. His brother ran in the 100-meter dash in the '64 Olympics. It's a great family. 2-2. Down he goes. When I think of the '36 Olympics, I think of Adolf Hitler and Jesse Owens.
It's a great book out on Jesse, who made his home in Phoenix, and marvelous.
Here's how the scoring took place. Hendricks single picked up Joyner and DeCinces, and the Angels led 2-0. In the bottom of the first, Ripken homered with the bases empty, and then Traber homered with Murray aboard. And then Lynn homered in the 5th inning. And the Orioles leading comfortably now 4-2 in the bottom of the 7th, and here is Lynn. Strike.
Finley's throwing hard.
He's got 3 strikeouts, same number as Chadwick. Freddie struck out, reached on an error, then hit the home run. away in the 7th, 4-2 Baltimore. DeCinces, Hendrick, and Grich due up for the Angels in the 8th inning. Remember, everybody sitting in the Angel dugout available to mark left-hand hitters.
He comes from first base like that on the fastball and hits that outside corner. It's almost an unhittable pitch.
Fouled away. Going to the bottom of the 9th inning at Cleveland, Bob Stanley is now pitching for the Red Sox in a 4-4 tie. Finley's a big guy. He's 6'6". You could have a jump ball out there for sure. Finley at 6'6" and Bordy at 6'7". Two and two to Freddie Lynn. Ground ball to the right side. Bobby Grich is there. 2 out in the 7th, and Cal Ripken coming up.
You mentioned Bob Stanley. You see that piece in USA Today the other day when they said, if you could be somebody else, who would you like to be? He said, Roger Clemens. I'd like to strike out 20 guys in one game.
He'd have to get online. Yeah, a lot of people would like to be Roger Clemens for one game. Ripken homered, hit into a force play, and then singled. Remember the ball that got off Joyner's glove? Cal tried to go for 2, and Joyner threw him out. So Ripken 2 for 3. Strike.
Ripken doesn't believe it.
Jimmy Williams coaching at first, and Cal Ripken Sr. coaching at third. One ball, one strike.
That was a great shot we had from behind Cal Ripken, because you could see the grip. And that's how the coach, if he is going to try to steal a sign, he'd make a note of how the ball is being gripped. There you see it. It's a fastball grip right there, but you don't know if he changed it in the glove, which obviously he does.
Now back, 1 and 2.
Booney took it.
That would be tough to be the father and risking your son's head if you're flashing signs and trying to steal pitches.
Well, you would make 99 and 44/100%
with somebody
sure.
else first, huh? Before your son.
Yeah, Mom would have something to say about that.
1 and 2.
Well, when you get them, they're pretty sure.
2 and 2. It's a remarkable streak of over 65 innings. The last time Cal Ripken missed an inning, these players were still in the major leagues. Carl Yastrzemski, Willie Stargell, Johnny Bench, Bobby Mercer, and Ferguson Jenkins. Now that's a while ago. 3 and 2. Well, he stayed out there. Now what's he going to do?
Now it's challenge time. My power, my strength against your strength.
Ripken with 19 home runs. Bouncer up the middle. So Ripken is 3 for 4. 8 hits for Baltimore. They lead 4-2. And Eddie Murray coming up. And in case your mind was wandering a little bit on father and son combos, maybe that'll refresh your memory. Eddie Murray has better numbers as a right-handed batter, but much more power as a left-handed batter. Ball 1. He's hitting over 300 from this side of the plate. He's been the big guy here in home runs and RBIs each of the last 6 years. Now back. He had one game a year ago that boggles the mind. and he had it against the Angels in Anaheim. He had 4 hits and 3 home runs. And if you can imagine, 9 RBIs in that game. 1 and 2. Imagine having 9 RBIs in one game. Oh.
That's a good streak. Look at that.
Yep, there it is.
Man, looks like the lottery numbers.
They got him out once. He went 4 for 5.
4 for 5 and 9 runs batted in.
1 and 2. The count to Eddie Murray. Ripken at first, 2 out in the 7th, 4-2 Baltimore. Two and 2. And that's hit down the right field line, foul and out of play. Because of the various injuries, you realize what a different Baltimore team has taken the field most of the time this year. Earl Weaver has had Lynn, Ripken, and Murray in the same lineup in the same game only 63 games this year. Got him. So Murray strikes out. They leave Ripken, and at the end of 7, Baltimore 4 and the Angels 2. We're going to the 8th inning at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. The Birds are leading the Angels 4-2. John Shelby is now in right field for Jim Dwyer. So T-Bone is out there with Freddie Lynn and Larry Sheets. Doug DeCinces, George Hendrick, and Bobby Grich in the 8th inning. And Rich Bordy trying to nail it down for Mike Flanagan. Remember, Doug played here into 81. He's hit 64 home runs in his career at Memorial Stadium.
Will that balloon be a factor?
Ball 1. Well, we do know a factor. If it's not the balloon, it was certainly that great play by Floyd Rayford in the 7th inning. And that's hit over the head of first baseman Traber and just inside the foul line. And DeCinces will hold a bloop single to right.
Right off the end of the bat.
Nothing about a wedge shot.
Yeah.
That's to the green.
I mean, it had that kind of backspin on it, too.
So DeCinces drops one just inside the foul line. And Earl Weaver's heading for the mound as George Hendrick is due up. His ace, Don Ozzie, down in the bullpen, and they're going to him. Now, Ozzie came in last night and retired 3 in a row. He has saved 30 games. He has a brilliant ERA of just 2. And he has put a smile on Weaver's face up to now, because Ozzie has the major league lead in saves with Dave Righetti at 30. And Bordy will be coming out. So Ozzie coming in, Bordy coming out, and we'll be back. It's 4-2 Baltimore.
I read the line.
A little history. We mentioned on August the 5th, Baltimore was 2.5 games back of the Red Sox. Then they lost 2 games at home to Texas because of Texas late inning rallies against a bullpen that was without Ozzie. Because on July 30th, he had walked off the mound with a bad elbow in a game involving Texas. Then he picked up a child, his child, and hurt his back. And what happened was, after the O's got to within 2.5 games, he had 1 save in the next couple of weeks. That's just a foul ball. And we get a report. A single by Andre Thornton scored Tony Bernazard with the winning run, and Cleveland, for the first time this year, defeats Boston 5-4. The Red Sox had beaten Cleveland 8 straight times. back. So George Hendrick representing the tying run. You have Doug DeCinces at first. Nobody out in the 8th. 4-2 Baltimore.
If nothing else, Vin, you have to be impressed with the size of the pitchers that Baltimore runs out there. This would be the team you'd vote least likely to get into a fight with.
That's right. Almost like a basketball team. Fastball just by the diving Rayford, and down to second base goes DeCinces. So first and second, and that's 3 hits for Hendrick, 2 singles and a double. Here's Rayford's chance, but this time no magic.
He came within an eyelash, reacted, but that ball was hit right on the nose and by him.
So first and second, nobody out. Rob Wilfong is going to bat for Bobby Grich. So Grich picks up his equipment and calls it a day. Rob Wilfong, an excellent bunter. He has sacrificed a half a dozen times. And now Kenny Rowe going out to talk to Don Ozzie.
The wheels are spinning.
So Gene Morg, deprived of at least 1 run in the 7th inning on the great play by Floyd Rayford, now has DeCinces and Hendrick get base hits, and he has his tying runs in position. Earl Weaving, meanwhile, talking to Frank Robinson. Kenny Rowe has concluded his remarks to Don Ozzie. So Rob Wilfong is coming up to bat. Wilfong has been in a slump. He's gone 0 for 16 as he checks in against Ozzie.
Rayford is way in at third base.
And a full swing foul out of play. Don Ozzie pitched for California from 1978 through 1983. He pitched briefly in 84. And he came over in 85 with Baltimore. On 1. Breaking ball and a good one. Wilfong quit on it, and it broke over. Well, the old story, you played a tie at home and win on the road. Wilfong was up there and hacked at the first one, and the count 0-2. Ball 1. Baltimore 4 runs, 8 hits. California 2 runs, 9 hits. And we're in the 8th inning. Pop fly. Gutierrez going out to get it. And the runners have to hold. There was no infield fly rule because there was no reasonable expectancy of Gutierrez to make the catch. And now make way. Here comes Reggie Jackson. Reggie played here in 1976. He hit 27 home runs, and would you believe he had a career-high 28 stolen bases for Baltimore. But boy, the Wolves were chewing on him as he came up to hit.
Tell you, love me or hate me, but you know he's there.
Ball 1. Reggie, you remember, was a convertible model in 1986 as he stopped going for the home run, went for the line drive, the single. However, his average is at 250, and now he's talking about how he should have gone for the downs all the time.
That's a slow curveball, and he got the strike with on Wilfong, and he just threw it to Jackson. That really is a good pitch for Ozzie.
1 ball and 1 strike. Ball 2. One of the reasons that Don Ossie has been so successful is the fact that he does not give up the home run ball. He has only allowed 3 home runs this year. So you have one who hits him against one who doesn't serve him up. High fly ball into shallow left center. Freddie Lynn is there. Reggie hit 7 home runs the first 6 weeks of the season, and he has hit 4 home runs 13 weeks since. And they were hoping he'd have a little magic, but he popped it up. Gary Pettis will be coming up, and Pettis is going to give way to Rupert Jones. So you have 3 consecutive pinch hitters. Wilfong for Gritch, Jackson for Schofield, and here is Rupert.
Number 13, Rupert Jones.
Two on with nobody out, and they had Wilfong swing away. He popped it up. Then Jackson a fly ball, and here's Jones. That would be the lowest on the Angel team. DeCinces at second, Hendrick at first. 2 out. Boy, did he challenge a pinch hitter coming off the bench with that one. One ball, 1 strike. Odell Jones, and the left-hander Brad Havens throwing back of Ozzie. Remember, Ozzie pitched 1 inning last night. He's asked to pitch 2 1/3 innings, well, at least 2 innings today. 2 balls, 1 strike.
Here's where he's been able to get that slow curveball over, Vin. Gets a little bit behind that hitter, and he's been able to throw something besides that fastball.
The count 2 balls and 1 strike. 2 on, 2 out in the 8th. 4-2 Baltimore. The Red Sox lost. Fastball fouled away.
He's just challenging him. He's as much as saying, hey, I got a good fastball going. You're going to have to hit it.
Baltimore using Mike Flanagan, Rich Bordy, and Don Ossie. The Angels using Ray Chadwick and Chuck Finley. 4-2 Baltimore. At second base, Doug DeCinces. At first, George Hendrick. Deuces wild. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. There's the slow curve. Swing, says Voltaggio.
When we talk about catchers checking hitters to make sure they don't peek back, here's a good example of why you want to do that. Now, Dempsey gives his sign. You really don't know what it is yet, but watch his glove now. He'll start to motion down, down. There it is, right there. You know that's going to be a curveball, and there it is.
And for the Angels, thoroughly frustrated, and they've made several changes. We'll give them to you as Jim Traber, John Shelby, and Larry Sheets coming up. One ball and no strikes. Rob Wilfong, who batted for Bobby Gritch, is at second base. Rupert Jones, who batted for Gary Pettis, is in center field. Rick Burleson, the DH, takes over at shortstop. Traber homered, flied to left, flied to center. 1-1. Fouled out of play. 2-2. The White Sox are at Texas tonight. Steve Carlton is due to be the probable pitcher for Chicago against Jose Guzman. But Mork would love to be able to come from behind. Otherwise, he's in danger of giving back another game. Should Texas win tonight and Baltimore knock off the Angels, then the lead would only be 3. Fouled away. Kansas City is at Milwaukee tonight. Toronto at Minnesota. Oakland at New York. Freddie Lynn and Cal Ripken have had a lot to do with it. Ripken with a home run and 2 singles, and Lynn with a home run. Almost got Traber at the kneecap. 3-2.
He really has an open stance, this young fella. He's an impressive hitter.
If you're the catcher, does that tell you anything at all?
You'd think he'd be looking for the ball inside.
And he got one inside and pulled it into the seat, so it's still 3-2. In other words, there's no particular thing to try to exploit when you see somebody open up like that.
If you never saw him before, never had a scouting report, you'd start off by pitching away and try to keep probing, but he looks like he wants that ball inside.
3-2. On the hands, he is coming in on him. Boy, he really challenged him that time.
Well, it used to be a rule of thumb, Ben, that when guys would take their practice swings, wherever that last swing stopped, that's what they were looking for. Because sometimes they'd decoy you and swing high, and then that last one would be where they wanted it. But that doesn't hold true every time either.
3-2 to Jim Traber. On the hands, and he muscled it down the right field line, foul. So he's come in on him now 3 times.
Well, you can see Boone on that last pitch especially, he shifted outside, so if Traber was taking a look, he would have caught him going that way, and then he moved right back in right before Finley delivered the pitch.
4-2 Baltimore, bottom of the 8th inning. He's gotten 2 consecutive fastballs. And another one at his chin. So you talk about pitching inside. Ball 4 to Traber. Don't forget, more exciting NFL preseason action coming your way. NBC Sports travels to Mile High Stadium. The Denver Broncos and John Elway against the Rams and Eric Dickerson. It's prime time preseason clash this Friday at 8 p.m. right here on NBC Sports. So Traber is low bridge, 3-2. He's at first, and John Shelby coming up. Shelby a switch hitter, and he hasn't hit much from either side of the plate. Strike.
He's going to bunt. He better get it down that first base line because the sensei is really taking third base away from him.
Angels scored 2 in the first. Baltimore came back with 3. The O's added another in the 5th, and here we are in the 8th. The bunt in the air at the feet of Finley, who throws and gets a force at Burleson. So a 1-6 force play.
Ball was bunted very hard, almost in the air. Sheets makes a good play because he's got a lot of backspin on it. Almost gets away from him, but he had no intention of going to first base, you can see.
Well, the interesting thing about all of that now, you have John Shelby, who hasn't really played that much, and yet he leads the O's in stolen bases with 11. It is not a running club, needless to say. So they have Shelby at first. They have only stolen 45 bases, if you can imagine. So here's Larry Sheets. Flied to left, flied to right, double to right. Strike. Shelby held on by Joyner. Number foul. Larry Sheets with Floyd Rayford on deck. And the more you think about it, the bigger and bigger and bigger Rayford's glove has played a part in this game, and that was in the 7th inning. And down goes Sheets. Of course, when you think about it, the glove has always played a part here, particularly at third base, especially when worn by Brooks Robinson. Yeah, Brooksy could do it all, couldn't he? Well, Floyd Rayford made a dazzling Robinson-like play in the 7th inning. Short hopping a shot off the bat of Rick Burleson. That would have been a double. The Angels would have had runners at second and third and nobody out in the 7th. But Rayford turned the double into a force play. 1-0. Rayford, recalled from Rochester Tuesday, was in such a hurry to get back here he left his car in Rochester. He didn't care about the wheels. 1 ball and no strikes. Once upon a time, the Angels wanted Rayford. They drafted him in the 75 draft. Well, Cincinnati has put Chicago off 7-3.
You ever notice how fast it takes a guy to come to the big leagues instead of going to the minor leagues?
Yeah, they never get lost.
They never miss a plane.
No.
Or there's no plane breakdown.
1 ball and no strikes to Rayford. It's been a tough day for him outside of the glove. He has struck out twice and grounded out. 0 for 3. Foul tip. 1 ball, 1 strike. Chuck Finley picking up for Ray Chadwick, and he has done well. He's working his 3rd inning. He has struck out 5, and he is not allowed to run. 1-2.
Had my eyes just on Boone. It's interesting to watch him before he gives his sign. Vin, his head is like it's on a turret. He checks the third base coach. He looked at the hitter, looked at his bench. He's looking to see if there's anything at all that is a little bit different. There he goes. Now he's looking at the third base coach. Yep. I'm sure he's just saying, hey, look, just get the batter right here, and it'll be the second baseman who'll be covering if somebody breaks. Don't worry about it. We're in control.
When the Angels come up in the 9th inning, Boone is due to lead it off. Then Burleson and Joyner.
Let him run. I'll get him.
2-2.
Well, if they're going to run 3-2, which they will, why not try it here? You'd really be looking for it on this pitch.
Especially if Shelby is the runner. John takes a pretty good lead. Doesn't go. And it's foul tipped, and that's that. That's the 3rd time that Rayford has struck out. A half a dozen strikeouts to Finley, and it's still 4-2 Baltimore.
Say, Mr.
We're going to the 9th inning, and Gene Mauch will send up another pinch hitter. And it's Jack Howell to bat for Bob Boone. So Wilfong, Jackson, and Jones batted in the 8th, and Howell off the bench to bat in the 9th. So Mauch dealing them all out now as he's down by 2. That's fouled away. Howell will be followed by Burleson and then Joyner. 4-2 Baltimore, top of the 9th. Birds trying to beat California 5 out of 8 this year. High pop fly, and it's Gutierrez, the second baseman. The wind blowing it,
That turned out to be a pretty tough play. It looked like maybe Lynn would run him off the play when the wind grabbed it, but he seemed to be in control. I got it all the way. He does make the play, but down he goes.
So Jackie Gutierrez making a fine play. That's the second good play he's made after a bad play in the 4th inning. He made a dazzling play in the 6th on Pettis, and now handles that twicky pop fly. And here's Burleson. Single, looped out, popped up, and then was robbed on the single most important defensive play of the game by Floyd Rayford in the 7th inning. 1-1. The Angels had a man at second with nobody out in the 6th. That was Hendrick, and they left him. They had Boone lead off the 7th with a base hit, and then Burleson hit the shot that was smothered by Rayford. They had back-to-back singles leading off the 8th, so they've had their opportunities. Chopper over the mound. Behind the bag at second is Ripken to get him.
Ripken is on record as saying, I may not be as flashy, but what I do, I study the hitters, I study my pitchers, I know the conditions, and I position myself. And that's exactly what he did on that one and made an easy play.
Easy play. So 2 out, and Joyner coming up there, but he can't hurt. He can only get you close. Joyner hit into a force play, grounded out, and popped up twice. 0 for 4. He's just trying to get aboard. On deck, Brian Downing, representing the tying run. It has been a very frustrating last couple of innings for California. Fouled away. 1-1.
Give that man a contract.
So Gene Mauch running out of outs now. He's down to his last out. And an Angel Ball Club faced with the reality of blowing a 4-run lead last night. And Jackie stayed with it to get him. The totals for Baltimore: 4 runs, 8 hits, and 1 error. And for the Angels, 2-9-1. Flanagan gets the win. He is 7-8, 5-1 here at Memorial Stadium. And young Ray Chadwick is 0-3. And a big moment, of course, for Floyd Rayford, who made the dazzling stop with a ball hit by Burleson in the 7th inning. And that really put the brakes to what might have been a game-changing inning. The home runs by Ripken, Traber, and Lynn. Ripken and Traber in the 1st inning, and Lynn in the 5th. So Baltimore, they're not well, but they're still alive.
Oh, they're very much alive. Very much alive.
They are 8 games back of the leading Red Sox. They still play Boston 6 more times. We'll be back after this. This week's NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game is Jim Traber, whose home run in the 1st inning put Baltimore out in front to stay. Miller Lite is happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Jim Traber to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. The Game of the Week has been brought to you by Miller High Life. Miller made the American way since 1855. By Yugo. Everybody needs a Yugo sometime. By Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. And by Armor All. It's the finishing touch every time you wash your car. We'll be visiting with shortstop Cal Ripken of the Baltimore Orioles after these messages. Part of the story would have to be the numbers 2 and 3 hitters in the respective lineups. The Angels, Joyner and Downing, went 0 for 9. The Orioles 2 and 3 hitters, Lynn and Ripken, went 4 for 8, including 2 home runs. And one of our guests right now is Cal Ripken. Cal, you have now played 6,572 innings. Are you tired?
Through the course of the season, I do get tired at times. Physically, you're going to have your strong days, and you're also going to have your days where you're not going to feel so good. But I don't think it's those consecutive innings that make you tired. It just happens every single year, no matter if you're going to take off days or not.
Steve Garvey finally stopped his streak. Dale Murphy got his streak snapped and said he was relieved that it was all over. Are you still intent upon keeping your string of innings, or do you think you'd be better off if you just got out of there a little while?
Well, I'm intent to keep playing as long as I possibly can play. I talked to Dale Murphy at the break at the All-Star game, and he said that he didn't set out to play all those games in a row, and that's my feelings exactly. I didn't set out to play 700 and some odd games in a row. It just happens that I've been very consistent, I've been healthy, and I've been able to do it. That's just the way my attitude's been, and that's the way it's going to continue.
Cal, this is Joe.
Hello, Joe.
How you doing? I mentioned that you are not as flashy as a lot of shortstops, yet you get the job done because you spend a lot of time positioning yourself, knowing your pitchers and the opposition. What all do you do to get ready for a game in that regard?
Well, a lot of times you look at their roster, their stat sheet. For example, I'll use Reggie as an example. When Reggie's swinging the bat very, very well, he's not really just a pull hitter. He'll drive the ball well to left center, and he'll drive the ball to my right as a shortstop. So if Reggie comes to town and I look at the stat sheet and Reggie's swinging the bat very well, then I'm more apt to play him a little bit to my right, as opposed to if he's not swinging the bat well, he seems to be swinging it really hard, and he seems to pull a little bit more. So that's one hitter. I'll look at the stat sheet and see who's hot and who's not. And the same goes for our pitchers. If we have a pitcher that's extremely hot and he's throwing the ball very, very well, then I'm more apt to rely on him as opposed to a pitcher that's struggling a little bit.
Do you get any help from anybody else in that regard?
Well, I try not to rely on too many other people. Sometimes your information is not always correct when you ask other people, so I try to rely on my memory and what I know of certain hitters. But if there's ever a problem and I really can't figure out a certain hitter, I'll go to my dad and say, well, what do you think? I seem to go to him more and more about everything, hitting, fielding, and positioning especially.
Cal, as a veteran infielder in the big leagues, did anybody have anything to say to Jackie Gutierrez for wearing his sunglasses sitting on top of his cap when they fell off there and really messed him up in the fourth inning?
Well, I don't know that it was the sunglasses that messed him up, and the fact that it just took a little tricky hop on him and he caught it. Never had quite a good grip on the baseball. He wore his sunglasses on before on top of his head when he doesn't really need them. Sometimes those sunglasses, when you put them over across the bridge of your nose and above your eyes, they block your vision just a little bit, and he just happens to like to put them on top of his head. Potentially that could be dangerous. And yes. I don't think today necessarily that had a lot to do with that error, but maybe somebody will say something to him about it.
It's
maybe
kind of a bad habit, isn't it?
I wouldn't take the chance.
Yeah.
Cal, quickly, give us a scouting report on Billy Ripken.
Well, Billy's having a super year in Charlotte, in our AA farm club. He's been very consistent with the bat. Last time I looked at the stats, he was up around 290, and all the reports that come in, he's playing very, very good second base. So we're all happy that he stayed healthy for a full year and that his offense came around, because we all knew that he could play defense, second base, shortstop, or third base.
Cal, I'm sure when you go back inside, you'll join your teammates and congratulate Floyd Rayford for making the big defensive play in the seventh inning.
Well, Floyd's another one of those defensive players that is very underrated. He's very sure-handed. He doesn't look like the quickest person in the world from appearance standpoint, but he's very quick. He's deceptively quick, and on that ball, he reacted so quick and made a nice dive and play. And that was a big play in the game for us.
Thanks, Cal, so very much for the visit. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We can duck in a couple of scores for you, bring you up to date. The big one, Cleveland beat Boston 5-4. Cincinnati 7-3 over Chicago. Giants and the Mets are scoreless in the fourth. 2-0 San Diego leading Philadelphia in the fifth. The executive producer of NBC Sports, Michael Weissman. The coordinating producer, Harry Coyle. The telecast produced by George Finkel, directed by John Gonzalez. Pregame produced by Les Dennis, and technical director Jim Marshall. Next week, the Dodgers and the Mets, or the Cubs at Atlanta on your World Series network, NBC. From Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, where Baltimore defeated the California Angels 4-2. For Joe Garagiola, this has been Scully. Hope you enjoyed the ride. Hope you make your plans to be with us next week. Want to say goodnight to your bride?
I'm going to say goodnight, but I'm making plans to be with you next week at Shea Stadium.
And how? To see the amazing Mets. And they'll go up against Tommy Lasorda's Dodgers. Others, of course, will see the Cubs and Atlanta down there at Fulton County Stadium in Georgia. Also a reminder, next Friday night, pro football preseason, the Rams and the Broncos. John Elway and Eric Dickerson. That'll be a great show at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And next week, we'll be talking to you from Shea Stadium in New York. Now, from Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, for Joe Garagiola, this is Vin Scully, reminding you that Baltimore defeated California 4-2, and wishing you a very pleasant good afternoon.